I'm proud of myself as a person. No one is perfect, but I did things with my tennis. I did things very professional. I'm very proud of it. I fixed my life afterwards, even though I went through so many difficult times, so many difficult years, but I did it myself. I'm proud of that because no one helped me. I had to do it myself. I'm very proud of that. I think in life, I'm a nice person too. And I hope people, they see me who I am. And I think people in the world, they see who I am as a person. They understand me. I hope they understand me. And I'm very happy with myself.
Thank you for listening to The Interview from the BBC World Service. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with fellow tennis icon Martina Navratilova, global music star Stevie Wonder, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho. CBC News is next.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa, live in downtown Winnipeg at our CBC studios. Thanks for joining us. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. It is 3 minutes, as mentioned, to 6 a.m., and the cold spot in the province is Roblin, Manitoba. You're at -7. Victoria Beach is at 6 degrees. That's the warm spot, not much of a spread. In Winnipeg, it's 3 degrees right now downtown. Over in Brandon, -5 to start your day, and up in Thompson this morning, it is mostly cloudy and -1. Welcome to the show Tuesday morning, October 7th, and lots coming up. But first, let's say good morning to the team. Corey Funk directing the show and covering your commute. Abby Adeyemi is our senior tech on the show. Abby covers weather on air. We'll talk to him after 6. And Darren Marash is here behind our YouTube controls. He's your producer there if you're watching the stream. All right, Heather Wells is in also. She's live in our news center to start our day with headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, today's the deadline for the Manitoba Legislature to vote whether to impose fines on former Premier Heather Stefanson and 2 of her PC cabinet colleagues. In May, Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner recommended Stefanson pay an $18,000 fine for pushing to approve the CO Silica mining license after the PCs lost the 2023 election. The family of a man who died after being arrested by Winnipeg police is suing the city and the officers involved. 35-year-old James Wood died in hospital following his arrest in Crestview in January 2024. Witnesses tell CBC police used a stun gun and a baton in that arrest. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, today is October 7th, and coming up after 8 o'clock on the program, 7 o'clock on the program, we're going to have a discussion with that on the second anniversary of the attacks. We're going to hear from an Israeli Winnipegger on what she has been hearing lately from family in Israel. So, of course, lots of developments politically that week, but today is a day to remember the 7th, so stay tuned for that. Also, today, in the first hour of the show, how Winnipeggers are using poetry, historic records, and a little bit of whimsy to tell our city's story. We have the Poet Laureate in studio with us to tell us more about her latest project. And later in the show, we're going to visit a playground for grown-ups that offers a little bit of nostalgia, with a kind of a modern twist as well. So I'll let that sit there, and we'll tell you what we mean a little later on Information Radio. Stay with us on CBC.
Today on Q.
Seth MacFarlane uses his voice a lot. Like, he voices 4 characters on his hit show Family Guy.
How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
But Seth is also a singer, and he'll tell you how he got possession of unreleased music meant for Frank Sinatra and how he used his voice to channel Frank on his brand new album.
Girls I knew Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada-U.S. trade relations are front and center today in Washington. Prime Minister Mark Carney will sit down with President Donald Trump to talk tariffs. And sources tell CBC News Canada is hoping to secure some relief on steel tariffs specifically. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. And Willie, what are we expecting during today's meeting?
Expectations are low. The CBC has learned that Prime Minister Mark Carney and his team are not anticipating to walk out of the White House with a blockbuster trade deal, but rather movement on steel tariffs, currently set at 50%, which could then serve as a framework for future negotiations. David McNaughton is the former Canadian ambassador to the U.S. His advice, slow and steady.
We shouldn't panic. I think at some point, the tariffs are going to start impacting on consumer prices in the United States. The closer Trump gets to the midterms, the more I think he'll be anxious to do real deals as opposed to the kind of smoke and mirror deals he's done up until now. And hopefully by that point, we will have established some parameters.
What are the potential risks for Carney heading into today's meeting?
Numerous. The relationship between these two leaders is a delicate one, not only because of the ongoing trade war, but Donald Trump's recent speech to military generals in which he once again called for Canada to become the 51st state. And today's meeting is about a lot more than trade. Carney and Trump are expected to discuss a host of issues around security, as well as the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Prime Minister Carney has endorsed President Trump's 20-point peace plan in Gaza, but the two do not see eye to eye when it comes to a future Palestinian state, with President Trump rebuking Canada and other Western countries' decision to recognize Palestine. He'll have to navigate that and other issues.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Some small business owners in Newfoundland and Labrador will be watching today's meeting at the White House very closely. They're halting shipments to the U.S. They say it's because commercial packages under $800 no longer qualify for duty-free exemptions. The CBC's Heather Gillis reports.
By shipping to the U.S. right now, we lose money with every book that goes out the door.
St. John's-based publisher Jerry Cranford says he's stopping shipments to the United States. He recently sent 3 cases with 96 cookbooks and says he got a big bill at the border.
We were surprised to learn that we had been levied with a $1,400 tariff for these 3 cases.
It's all because the United States ended the de minimis exemption, which allowed commercial shipments under $800 to enter the country duty-free. The other thing eating into Cranford's bottom line, the Canada Post strike. He says other couriers are more expensive. And Cranford's not the only one halting those shipments south. The Heritage Shop, a tourist gift shop with 9 locations in Newfoundland and Labrador, they're stopping too. Executive Director Jane Severs says the problem is tariffs can vary and they need to be paid up front.
Just the risk and the added cost and the manpower, the paperwork, it's just not possible for an organization of our size.
Same for some of Severs' suppliers who depend on U.S. sales.
If those people aren't viable and go out of business, then it's less producers, local people we have to sell in our stores.
Meanwhile, back at Flanker Press, Cranford says he's going to be keeping a keen eye on Prime Minister Mark Carney's meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump to see if there are any changes that would allow him to send small shipments again. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
People in Israel are marking 2 years since the October 7th attack by Hamas.
קורבנות טבח השבת השחורה תשפ"ד והשליכו נפשם מנגד.
A memorial service in Kfar Aza, a kibbutz in southern Israel. Mourners held a moment of silence at 6:29 a.m., the minute the attack began. The resulting war has brought misery to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli officials say the war is not meant to punish them, but after 2 years, many Palestinians are asking how much more they will be forced to endure. Crystal Gomansing reports from the Israeli-Gaza border town of Sderot.
In Gaza, people talk about the different sounds. Street noise, people jostling for food in crowds, the buzz of drones overhead. But it is the cry of her children that cuts Salma Tawil.
The little kids, they are not able to bear the situation.
Her youngest of 4, Julia, doesn't sleep much anymore, too afraid of airstrikes.
She was waking me up all the night. Mama, stay with me. I couldn't sleep.
Tawil spoke to CBC over Zoom not long after she was forced to leave Gaza City with her family. She's now in Deir al-Balah, but isn't sure it's much safer. The World Health Organization says 42,000 people in Gaza are now living with life-changing injuries. Save the Children last month said at least one Palestinian child has been killed every hour on average by Israeli forces in Gaza during the course of the war. Israel says it tries to protect civilians by issuing evacuation notices.
When I see that someone went to the other world, murdered or killed, I see they went to God and they are better than us.
It's easier to be dead than to be alive in Gaza.
Yes, that's true.
DeWiel works for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Humanitarian groups like NRC have repeatedly called for an end to the fighting, citing the right to protection, food, and clean water, none of which are readily available in Gaza. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Sderot, Israel.
Today's the deadline for Ottawa to respond to Marineland's request for emergency funding. The Ontario Aquatic Amusement Park says if it does not receive government help, it will have to euthanize its remaining 30 belugas. The park had made a deal to send the whales to an aquarium in China, but the federal government blocked the export request. It said it was not in the best interest of the mammals. The Fisheries and Oceans Minister has also called Marineland's funding request inappropriate. 2 leaders of the truck convoy that took over downtown Ottawa are due to be sentenced today. Chris Barber and Tamara Leach were both found guilty of mischief back in April. They were at the forefront of the 2022 protest over COVID-19 restrictions. And as Nicole Williams tells us, the Crown is asking for stiff sentences.
It's a scene Crown attorneys say had a profoundly negative impact on the city. Trucks camped out in the streets of downtown Ottawa in the winter of 2022, honking and truck fumes through all hours of the day and night, even after a court order to stop.
Guys, lock that door, crawl into that bunk. But before you do that, grab that horn switch and don't let go.
That's Chris Barber, one of the leaders of the Freedom Convoy movement. It saw truckers from across the country occupy the nation's capital for 3 weeks in protest of COVID-19 vaccine mandates at the time. Barber was convicted this past April of mischief and counseling others to disobey that court order.
If you can come to Ottawa and stand with us, that would be fantastic.
Tamara Leach found guilty of mischief alone. The Crown in this case has asked she be sentenced to 7 years in prison and Barber 8. It's a far longer sentence than is typical for a conviction of mischief. But the Crown argues the protest cost the city millions of dollars in business losses and police response and overwhelmed the residents of Ottawa.
It's way beyond any reasonable sentence.
Leach's lawyer, Lawrence Greenspan, he argues she came to Ottawa with the best of intentions. The defense for both her and Barber are asking for their clients to walk with absolute discharges. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
3 U.S.-based scientists who study quantum mechanics are this year's winners of the Nobel Prize in Physics. John Clark, Michel Devoré, and John Martinez all work out of universities in the States, and hopefully they'll all be near the phone, unlike Fred Ramsdell. He's one of the 3 people who won the Nobel Prize for Medicine yesterday, but he still may not know. The Nobel Committee has not been able to reach him. Neither have his friends and colleagues. One of them told AFP News Ramsdell is probably hiking in the backcountry in Idaho, away from cell service and living his best life. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. And if you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. It is Tuesday, October 7th. Thank you so much for being with us on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. You could have some frost out there. Abby's going to talk about where he spotted it already this morning. My plants were still looking okay, so maybe a bit of a bright spot, but we'll talk forecast in a second. This half hour in the program, we have something lovely coming up. How Winnipeggers are using poetry, historic records, and a little bit of whimsy to tell our city's story. The Poet Laureate is in to explain this. So I'm holding up a tiny little map to our camera. You probably can't even see it if you're watching on YouTube, but you will because we've got some close-up shots. And this is an interactive thing that you should be part of if you care about our city, and we're going to tell you why. Also, this hour on the show, you've just been hearing 2 years since what started in Gaza and the attack in Israel on October 7th. We're going to talk about ways to manage grief as we mark 2 years since the outbreak of violence between Israel and Gaza, and also talk more about how we manage that as human beings when we look at the state of the world. So stay tuned. Plus, speaking of the state of the world, Ryan Tumulty is going to give us his take on the Prime Minister's visit to the States. So that's all coming up this hour. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, though. She's live in our news center with your headlines.
Good morning. Well, it is a case that is raising questions about the challenging of transferring patients in rural Manitoba. 2 registered nurses have been disciplined by their regulator for transferring a baby from Dauphin to Winnipeg using a handy van. It happened on a foggy day last October. An air ambulance wasn't available because of the weather, and there was a delay in getting a ground ambulance. We're going to hear more about what happened there. As well, some farmers in southeast Manitoba are hoping for frost this week so they can finish harvesting their crops. We're going to hear how that comes into play at this time of year in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening in the forecast. So, Abby, my friend, where'd you see the frost?
No, I just stepped into the car and I noticed it was like a bit frozen there, and I had to use the windshield fluid to like melt it off this morning.
Yeah, it's called the lazy scrape, my friend.
I didn't do the scrape. I just had to use the liquid to like melt it off this morning.
You know what? I have to say, though, I'm like a little kid sometimes because I love putting my mittens on. So this morning I was like, hello, mittens.
Did you grab it?
Of course I grabbed my mittens. And then it wasn't actually that cold outside, so I didn't really use them, but I've got them in case.
Yeah, I ain't bringing mine till November. I'll try to brave it till November.
What's the actual forecast today?
Well, it's starting off crisp and clear in the city, and across board we're seeing that real fall chill in the air. Temperatures have dipped below freezing in parts of the Westman region. We're reading -5 to -7 out west. It's sitting near 3 degrees in the Red River and the Pembina Valley region, stretching all the way to the Interlake region this morning. The sunshine will dominate across the province, making it a bright and cool day. Winnipeg right now, we're sporting -1 at the airport and 3 degrees at the Forks. Calm winds will stick around. We warm up to about 10 degrees, and then tonight chilly will drop to around 3 degrees. Highs for the south will be between 10 and 13 degrees, while up north we're going to see 2 to 6 degrees depending on where you are. But up north, we're seeing -1s and -2s there. Winnipeg right now, we are at 3 degrees.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's tee up what's going on in traffic. Corey Funk, after like really quiet days, yesterday was kind of nuts. It was busy.
Yeah, it was busy yesterday, but so far it is very, very quiet out there. I haven't heard of any major issues out there. I will tell you this, Marcy, I forgot my mitts this morning. I couldn't find them anywhere.
Oh, I'm your friend.
I biked with socks on my hands.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's hard to reach the brakes though. I realized. So, but I my sock actually got caught in the brakes at one point, and I was like trying to bike, and I got stuck.
Okay, not recommended. Are we all hearing this?
So yeah,
not
safety
recommended.
tip: don't bike with socks on your hand.
But have a friend that has mitts and doesn't need them, and I'll give them to you when you go home if you need them.
Perfect. Thank you. Actually, it turns out I left them at work, so I'm good to go. So if you do see something going on out there, give me a call if you see someone biking with mitts to report them. 204-788-3093.
Well, 6:15 a.m., and what a joy to start the show in this way. I'm going to ask you a question and really think about it. What does it mean to be from Winnipeg? It's not something that you might often think about, but there's a new citywide project, and Winnipeggers are being asked to answer that question. But to do so, all you need to do is start with some archival material and a little bit of whimsy. So the Story of Winnipeg is the latest project from the city's Poet Laureate, Jennifer Still. It's a collaboration between the city's public libraries and the Arts Council, and here's how it works. So every library has a map of the city that Still has created from archival materials that come out of a book that actually we're going to show if you're watching on YouTube shortly. But I'm going to show you these little maps here. So I'm going to unfold this. You can kind of see that's an archival map, right? I know you're not probably on YouTube, you're not seeing. seeing exactly what we're looking at. But there you go. You can't see the close-up. But you get the point here. So you have these little maps. That's what it starts. And then there's blank spaces that every participant fills in with their own poetry about the city. But there's prompts there that have been put there out of text that came out of this archive from Still. So in the end, you can keep it for yourself, or you can submit it to Still, who's going to share it as part of a citywide poetry book. Jennifer's in studio to talk about it. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
How did I do at describing that? I tried my best.
You did so well that I think the interview's done.
We're not done. Where did you come up with an idea like this? Did it start with the book or what?
I was thinking of that because, I think it actually came out of this idea of really wanting to share and engage Winnipeggers in poetry. And how do you do that? How do you collaborate with the city? It was quite a task that I gave myself, but I was thinking about the magic and simplicity of materials that you need to write poetry. So a single page and a pencil and a writing tool, right? You don't have to have a whole lot of materials for it. And the magic of folding a single page into a new structure. It's almost a poem itself in terms of its ability to be opened in the center. So this page is an 8.5 by 11. There's a single opening in the center, which allows the page to be folded and then refolded into a little 6-page book.
Yeah.
So a single flat space that has volume suddenly, and that is also self-supporting. It can stand on its own. It just sort of, to me, it's almost a poem itself.
I love the idea. I don't have the guts to unfold mine because I don't know if I'll be able to fold it back up. I'm nervous. But I love that you also have prompts here and they're not sort of the typical prompts. It's not like I love Winnipeg because. I'm not insulting that. I've posted that on Facebook myself before. But these are very interesting prompts. So if we may, before we get started here, get deeper here, Jen, can we read some of these?
Oh, please, yes.
Okay, so let's start with yours. You have one and I have one. These are the one I have, I think, actual Winnipegger submitted.
Oh, both of the
Right?
ones we have,
Oh,
a
great.
Winnipegger submitted.
Okay, so here's Jen reading her little book, and the prompts are the beginning and then the fill-in points.
Okay. The Story of Winnipeg by Erica M. Winnipeg is the central point of my mother's heart. The city contains my ancestors' longing for home. The most marvelous recipe boxes from Amma's radiate from it. The streets of the city are generally leading home. All roads amount to millions of cents and dollars of potholes, obviously. It is surrounded by wind and pocket gophers. It is controlled by wind and pocket gophers. Winnipeg is now in a position to reverse poles. Take this record, miles of possibility, miles of attempts, miles of strip mall pedicures, and add to it. The whole mother's heart in the ribbons of wind is open.
What is your reaction when people can see maybe on the shot here, there's a little mailbox that Jen's put together so people would fill this out and put in there. What's your reaction when you pull something like that out and realize, someone's that writing is so beautiful and so thoughtful and so spot on in many ways, the miles of strip mall pedicures and that opening line about the mother's heart. I mean, it's beautiful.
It is. This one actually made me cry, which is why I brought it this morning. That's always a good sign when you cry or laugh or gasp out loud. I'm just so taken by the time one takes, to sit down and consider this and the intimacy with which people are writing and actually the hope. I just can't believe how much hope. I mean, they can fill these blanks with anything. There could be a lot of emotions in here. And I would say so far with the couple dozen I've received, it's the underlying message, I think, is hope and humor.
We're going to hear a bit of that in the one I'm going to read as well. But first, I want to take a second about the maps. So what year are the maps? And did they come from this book that's, let's see, Winnipeg, Gateway to the Golden West? Did they come from this too?
Great question. No, this is a streetcar map from 1950. And so all the red lines on it are the old streetcar routes. And I really just fell in love with the map because of the way the arteries are so pronounced, the streetcar arteries are so pronounced, and of course the metaphor of that for a city. And so, yes, that was a separate map that I came across. But the city of the Winnipeg Golden Gateway to the West, that archival book is from 1910.
Got it.
So
I'm ruining our display here, but that's okay. I'm just moving the mailbox and little things. So this book itself, it actually only has, if people can imagine, this is, it's bound by, I should be more careful with this document. It's bound by a string, and then it's all, the pages are frayed, as you can imagine. The front almost looks like it was pencil crayoned in. It's just very sort of crude but beautiful for its age. And the front page is the only page that has text. And then there's all these images of buildings around the time of 1910. I mean, if you flip through this, that's what you're seeing. What does this speak to you? We're talking a bit about this in the green room when you look at the images of Winnipeg here.
Right. I was trying to orient myself really as the poet laureate. That's why I was looking through that book. And I just thought, I'll do something with these images. I want to do something, that's instantly recognizable to Winnipeggers. But then I read the text. It's a single page of really dense, tiny font text. And I was taken by the language of it and how it's really celebrating commerce. I mean, this is 1910 Winnipeg. It's celebrating infrastructure. It's a lot of numbers.
A lot of numbers.
It basically says nothing about the waterways of our city, about the rivers, about the natural landscape, except as it might apply to commerce. So I thought, this is interesting. This is what was so valued and celebrated
at the time. It says the story of Winnipeg is one of the most marvelous and impressive records of growth on the continent. And then it's followed by all these buildings that we built and how much we built them for. So it's interesting that you've taken those pieces of text and now you're pushing people, because that's where the prompts come from.
Yes.
To think about Winnipeg now.
Yes, and I'm just so curious. What is the center? What is Winnipeg the central point of? What does the city contain? What is the most marvelous thing that radiates from it? And it's very different from what was said over 100 years ago.
I hope you get 1 million of these back. Okay, I'm going to read the next one. You ready?
Yes.
The Story of Winnipeg by Ollie. Winnipeg is the central point of the journey of my life. The city contains my history and dreams. The most marvelous memories radiate from it. Winnipeg is now in a position to thrive if we want it. The streets of the city are generally pothole-filled. All roads amount to rubble. It is surrounded by beauty. It is controlled by the changing of the seasons. Take this record. Miles of fields, miles of floodways, miles of friends, soil, plants, branches, hands, and add to it. The whole Portage and Main intersection open. I love that. They're all so different. How many do you hope to get? Where can people find them and how can they participate in your lovely project?
Yeah, they're at every Winnipeg Public Library branch, complete with a mailbox that requires no postage, no delivery. You just insert it into the mailbox. If you like to share, when you do share it with me, I will be reading it. It will be heard. You can remain anonymous. You don't have to say your name.
Okay, good to know. Important.
Right now we have 2,000 distributed, but we're already, I think, printing more because some teachers have come across this. They want their students to have a chance to do it. So I think I'll just be folding maps all winter. I'm going to have a poet's folding party.
Well, the weather turned right in time for you to cozy in and fold some maps, Jennifer. This is beautiful. I love the project. Thank you so much for coming in and starting the show with us today.
Thank you so much.
So check out the public library and look for Jennifer Still, our Winnipeg Poet Laureates project. You're looking for the little maps. And if you have any trouble, you can always probably reach out to the city or the libraries to find out where you can find them and where you can find the mailboxes to contribute.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
6:25 a.m. the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and on YouTube. Well, in Winnipeg today, as we've been telling you, our high is going to be 10 degrees. It's sunny, but you might be waking up just to a touch of frost. Well, let's return to the news of the day. And today marks 2 years since violence erupted in Israel and Gaza. Anniversaries like this can stir up heavy emotions for many people all around the world. Processing the feelings can be a challenge. And to talk about it, a registered psychologist is with us. She joins us from St. John's. Time to time, we do this on the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So what's the human experience of for individuals coping with grief on anniversaries of traumatic events?
I think, in some ways, it's important to look at, we have both a collective anniversary happening, just in terms of the news cycle and really, really heavy news stories for even those of us who weren't directly impacted. But then for those who were impacted or continue to be impacted, anniversaries often kind of cause a resurgence of a lot of thoughts and emotions and memories. And especially when it's very early on, it's often very unpleasant reactions and thoughts. It's kind of later that you can perhaps have, fonder memories of perhaps loved ones that have been lost. But really wanting to normalize and let people know that it's very, very typical on an anniversary to have a surge of whether it's emotional reaction, whether it's a physical reaction, and to be kind to yourself and be okay with sitting in some of those emotions and acknowledging them.
Can you help us understand the emotion of despair? Because I think that when we're on a personal level, there's different strategies. But when you look at something like, a 2-year anniversary of what happened on October 7th, and then you think about today, people are going to wake up, they might turn on the radio, they're going to hear about peace talks yesterday that were hopeful, but then also not hopeful. They're going to hear about things changing and then also maybe feel like they're not changing. They're going to look at all the people that, have died in Palestine and also those who are still hostages on both sides being held. And they may not be able to find the hope. So how do you deal with the despair, and do you just avoid the news?
Well, I would definitely avoid social media because of the unfiltered nature and the far more where it's likely to be opinions that may or may not be fully informed. But it's knowing what's right for you, but stepping away from a lot of it. So finding maybe it is a way to do a tribute to loved ones or lost experiences, and maybe it's taking a look at photos. Maybe it is saying, no, you know what? I need to really protect myself because I'm feeling very fragile. So I'm going to make a point of being able to just go and, have a walk with a friend or go and do something where I am not surrounded by news and people and opinions. And maybe it's I just need to go somewhere and have a really big cry. And that's okay. That's, again, part of that processing, because despair, a lot of it comes from those feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. And again, the longer things continue, that certainly can increase it. So right now, sit with the emotions. If you need to avoid them, but then kind of move through it with okay, I can't fix the world situation, but is there something tiny that I can do? Either to be engaging in self-care or reaching out to somebody else or working within my community. What are little things that I can do to feel just a tiny bit more optimistic or in control?
It's interesting because I know you said to avoid social media. I actually posted on social media asking people their greatest hope and fear 2 years since October 7th. One of the listeners wrote in, Dave Nickar said, my greatest hope is for peace. My greatest fear is that it's much more likely Israel will keep up their genocide no matter what's agreed to. And of course, people weighing in with their perspectives all over this. I wonder whether or not, engaging with others, depending on the person, can help you or harm you. I don't know if there's an answer to that, because for some people it might feel like you want to talk about it. Other people might be the opposite.
I think for an anniversary, you want to be very careful selecting your audience because you are so much more vulnerable at that time. A week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, engage whoever you want to online. But right now, having someone who at least is able to support you, they might not agree with you, but at least has your back and is supportive of you. That would be someone I would be reaching out to if it's important for you to talk about the situation.
Thank you very much, Janine. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Janine Hubbard is a psychologist. I reached her this morning, 2 years since October 7th. Of course, we'll have much coverage on the ground in Israel today. That is coming up at 8 o'clock on World, 7 o'clock on World Report in case you missed it. And if you want to read more comments, we'll share these throughout the program from my Facebook page. You can check it out. I'm Marcy Marcusa on that platform. Right now, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it's a little bit chilly. It's 3 degrees right now in downtown Winnipeg. We're warming up a little to 10, but then even warmer tomorrow. Mostly sunny throughout your day today. A delay in getting an ambulance prompted 2 Dauphin nurses to use a handy van to transport a newborn last October. But the nurses were disciplined for breaking protocols, according to recently released decisions by their regulator. An investigation found no air ambulance was available because of poor weather, and the baby's parents wanted to take the child to Winnipeg themselves. Martin Lucier at Manitoba's College of Registered Nurses says they are aware of staffing challenges, but he says the college must uphold professional standards.
It's a difficult line as a regulator to try and walk between supporting nurses in meeting those standards, which we do through a variety of programs, but at the same time holding nurses to account even if there are and when there continue to be difficult circumstances that present themselves.
Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says they agree more paramedics are needed to help address issues with patient transfers in rural areas. The minister says while this case is concerning, established protocols must be followed to keep patients safe. Former Manitoba Premier Heather Stefanson and 2 of her former PC cabinet colleagues should find out today whether fines will be imposed against them. Today is the deadline for the Manitoba legislature to vote whether to impose fines on Stefanson, former Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen, and former Economic Development Minister Jeff Wharton, who still serves as a PC MLA. In May, Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner recommended all 3 pay fines for pushing to approve the CO Silica mining license after the PCs lost the 2023 election. NDP Government House Leader Nahani Fontaine says the debate on the fines could extend into the evening.
At this point, I'm preparing to make sure that our members have supper and preparing that our members know that should they need, some arrangements for childcare, to do so.
The Ethics Commissioner recommended an $18,000 fine for Stefanson, a $12,000 fine for Cullen, and a $10,000 fine for Wharton. The family of a man who died after being arrested by Winnipeg police is suing the city and the officers involved. 35-year-old James Wood died in hospital following his arrest in Crestview in January 2024. Witnesses tell CBC police used a stun gun and a baton in the arrest. Wood's father filed a statement of claim last week with the Court of King's Bench against the city and 6 police officers. It claims 2 of the officers used force with weapons without legal justification. The lawsuit also accuses the officers of racially profiling Wood, who is Indigenous. The suit seeks a total of $350,000 in damages. CBC has reached out to the city for a response. None of the allegations have been tested in court, and no statement of defense has been filed at this time. Manitoba's NDP government is following through on a 2023 campaign promise to hire a seniors advocate. Leanne Caron, a former director of the Women's Health Clinic in Winnipeg, has been tapped for that job. She will start November 12th, pending approval from the legislature. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney's in Washington today to talk with U.S. President Donald Trump in their second Oval Office meeting this year. Trade and security are expected to be high on the agenda, and many Canadians have their hopes riding on Carney being able to negotiate relief from Trump's punishing sectoral tariffs. People in Israel are marking 2 years since the October 7th attacks by Hamas.
קורבנות טבח השבת השחורה תשפ"ד והשליכו נפשם מנגד.
A memorial service in Kfar Aza, a kibbutz in southern Israel. Mourners held a moment of silence at 6:29 a.m., the minute the attack began. The resulting war has brought misery to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli officials say the war is not meant to punish them, but after 2 years, many Palestinians are asking how much more they will be forced to endure. Well, parts of southeast Manitoba are drying out after being hit hard by rain over the weekend. The RM of Piney received upwards of 62 millimeters of rain, according to Environment Canada. Deputy Reeve David Beaudry says his rain gauge collected more than 70 millimeters at his home near South Junction. It wasn't just wet. He says there was also hail Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Before it started, there was a lot of rumbling. It was like a growling noise. We could tell it was pretty bad.
The heavy rainfall even has some farmers in the area hoping for frost soon so their muddy fields can firm up and they can finish harvesting their crops. In New York tonight, it is Game 3 of the American League Divisional Playoff Series with the Blue Jays just one win away from finishing off the Yankees. The Jays are up 2-0 in this best of 5 after back-to-back lopsided wins over the weekend. Over those two games, the Jays outscored New York 23-8. Game time tonight is 7 o'clock Central. You can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Exciting.
I'll be watching you.
Oh, yeah. I love watching playoff baseball. I was watching last night with the Dodgers. Yeah. So good times, Heather Wells. I was also in one of the local malls, and there was a whole bunch of people wandering around the Jays stuff. So I think a lot of people are buying this stuff to wear.
You know what? Yeah. And who wouldn't? Their gear is actually, it looks great, as well as it being supportive for the Jays. It looks good.
It does. And if you want to go on the cheap, just turn your Bomber jersey inside out because it's kind of the same blue. All right, talk to you later.
Okay.
Abby's here with your weather now.
Yeah, it's a chilly morning, expecting some sunshine with clear skies across board today. And we'll see some temperatures get to about 10 degrees, 13 degrees later in the afternoon. But right now, we're looking at 3 degrees in the city, mainly clear skies. Sunshine will take over shortly. That would last through the day with light winds and will warm up to about 10 degrees later in the day. For the Pembina Valley region, similar conditions. However, you're around a chilly one at this time, also warming up close to 10 degrees later tonight. Looking at conditions in the western part of the province, the Westman region, Brandon and surrounding communities, we're looking at -6 and -7 degrees this morning. Sunshine will take over. We're seeing some foggy conditions in that part of the province as we speak. That should lift as you get into the morning, and then sunny skies would warm things to about 13 degrees later. For the Parkland region around Dauphin and surrounding communities all the way down to Riding Mountain, we're seeing -3 there. Also foggy. The fog will burn off early, and then we'll see some sunny conditions later, warming up to about 12 degrees. Gimli is at 1 at this time. Clear skies, you do have northwest breeze, warming up to 10 degrees. Moving to the Power, Flin Flon and surrounding area, we're looking at temperature sitting below freezing. We're seeing -2 there. Mainly clear skies, a mix of sun and clouds in the forecast. Highs will be just near 6 degrees. Thompson is at -2 at this time. Some more cloudy conditions we're spotting there. That should clear through the morning, and we'll see some sunshine that brings temperatures to about 5 degrees. Further north in Churchill, we are at 0. Some sun and clouds on its way to that part of the province. Conditions will clear late in the afternoon with some wind, just some breezy winds that would cool things, make things stay around 2 degrees. Overall, it's just going to be more like a chilly start for most regions across the province, with temperatures hovering between -6 and 3 degrees. Winnipeg right now, we are at 3.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
The commute, Corey Funk.
Been a very quiet commute so far this morning. Haven't heard of any major issues, but if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
It's time for business news. Hallie Cottonham joins us every morning, and she's here again today. Hi there.
Good morning, Marcy.
So expectations for today's meeting in the Oval Office, you would think would be high, but maybe not so much.
No, well, trade and foreign affairs pundits are being very careful in their predictions, perhaps hedging their bets, Marcy. I mean, Prime Minister Mark Carney is trying to get tariff relief, obviously, from a president who calls himself the great negotiator. In fact, Donald Trump was asked about today's meeting with Carney.
Well, I guess he's going to ask about tariffs because a lot of companies from Canada are moving into the United States, you know.
And Trump went on to say this about what his trade policies have accomplished.
If I didn't have the power of tariffs, you would have at least 4 of the 7 wars raging. I use tariffs to stop wars.
So these were his comments on the eve of today's meeting with Mark Carney. And so experts are saying, don't expect a big win for Canada. This despite the opposition's calls for no more losing, suggesting today's meeting is a mere photo op. In fact, just yesterday, Trump promised new tariffs on medium and heavy-duty truck imports. David McNaughton is a former Canadian ambassador to the U.S. He's urging patience. And he acknowledges, though, the pain that some Canadian workers are facing.
The easiest thing is to do a bad deal quickly. If you're a steel worker or you're in the auto sector and everything else, I can fully appreciate. And if you're in the opposition, of course, you're going to try and, say whatever you're going to say to make the Prime Minister look bad. But it's always easy to do a bad deal.
Here's the news, Marcy. Several senior government sources are telling CBC that there could be some movement specifically on steel tariffs. Those same sources, though, urging people to temper their expectations. Carney arrives at the White House at 10:30 Central. Obviously, CBC will be all over this throughout the day.
Now, President Trump has said he doesn't need Canada's oil, gas, vehicles, or lumber, but critical minerals are another matter, right?
Well, the U.S. government is buying a 10% stake in Vancouver-based Trilogy Metals for $50 million Canadian. Trilogy is a Canadian mineral exploration company, but it owns mining interests in Alaska. I don't know if you caught this, but yesterday Trump signed an executive order to build a 340-kilometer long road through the Alaskan wilderness to allow better access to where these minerals are found. It's all about developing a domestic supply of copper, cobalt, zinc, and lead. Last week, the U.S. bought a 5% stake of Lithium Americas. It is also a Canadian company. It's developing one of the world's largest lithium mines in Nevada. So at one point, shares in Trilogy Metals jumped more than 200% in overnight trading.
Wow. And finally, this is not a story for anyone in my family. I just want to put that out there, or my extended family. But apparently when some people go out to eat, they wish the portions were smaller. What's this story about?
Yeah, I saw this headline. I'm like, really? Let me read more. So Olive Garden, which, as you probably know, is famous for its unlimited pasta bowls or endless breadsticks. Olive Garden says it noticed that some customers wanted less food, especially if it meant less cost, but also so it meant less waste. So earlier this year, Olive Garden tested a new menu at a limited number of locations. Smaller portions with reduced prices. The idea is to appeal to customers who've been cutting back on eating out because of belt-tightening. I mean, it was hurting Olive Garden's bottom line. So it released these smaller portions, cheaper prices. The pilot was deemed a success. Customer feedback was positive. In fact, there were signs that this new menu was actually bringing diners back again. Its affordability metric jumped by 15%. I didn't know what that was. I looked into it. This is how a company measures how easily customers can afford its products. So this pilot boosted that affordability metric. And it's all part of a larger trend, your family and mine notwithstanding, Marcy. The National Restaurant Association found in its annual survey that 64% of consumers have replaced eating 3 squares a day with snacking. In other words, by the time dinner rolls around, they're not as hungry as maybe people were before. And it also found that 74% of restaurant customers say they crave smaller portions. That's what the National Restaurant Association has found.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And we probably never needed 7 breadsticks anyway. All right, Hallie.
Maybe not.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Take care. Hallie Cottenham with Business News, live every morning here on CBC's Information Radio. This is 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. You're on CBC This Morning, a morning show. Thanks for being with us. Tuesday, October 7th. And in Winnipeg right now, clear and 3 degrees. Well, we always like to play local music on the show. And today we have one from Mitchell McCoons. He's Winnipeg-based, Mitchell McCoons, originally from Brandon, though. Likes to mix country rock with his Métis roots. You've probably heard him before. He likes to blend in Ojibwe traditions as well into his music. This is his latest single. It's called Sweatshirts.
Remember when my sweatshirts were always on the run? Come home smelling like tight cold water and filled with your love. Remember our first trip down a winding gravel road? Said it felt like a roller coaster and kept your eyes closed. If you seen me jump those tracks, 150 down a gravel road, even faster thinking back, you were there with me, hugging every curve, giving Jesus some words, saying let's do that again. Well, the buy and sells checked off then for our favorite truck. COVID killed the classifieds and the market's gone way up. The bank's been doing some talking about lower interest rates. We can finally get that acre lot and afford to renovate. Your daddy would have killed me if he knew half our plans, but we don't make them anymore, and that's just where it stands. If you were here with me, we'd pick it up like nothing. Wouldn't that be something? Say, let's do that again. Now all my sweatshirts hang up in my closet. That life they forgotten, wish I could do the same.
Mitchell McCoon's a local artist here. That tune is called Sweatshirts.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
13 minutes to 7 o'clock, the latest in national and international news coming up on CBC on World Report. Also, it's Tuesday. That means we're going to talk to Ryan Tumulty in a minute about what's going on politically. So let's tee that up. As you know, the Prime Minister is in Washington today. Another meeting with the U.S. President. Hallie was just analyzing some of that on our Biz Report. Trade and tariffs will be centered upon, of course. Canadian officials are hoping for some movement in support of workers in this country. So it could involve some relief for industries that rely on business flowing back and forth smoothly across our borders. Now, on Power and Politics, the CBC's David Cochrane spoke with David McNaughton, who's the former Canadian ambassador to the United States, served in that role between 2016 and 2019. Here's part of what the conversation about the dynamics that are in play today.
The reality is that if at some point a deal is done, it's most likely to be done between the two leaders, and so I think the Prime Minister's continuing to maintain a dialogue is useful and helpful, and I just think we should have measured expectations as to what's going to happen.
Well, those measured expectations, I mean, how should Canadians view it, right? Because obviously a big part of the reason why Mark Carney won the last election was he was seen as the person to best take on this situation, deal with Donald Trump. He's being criticized by the Conservatives saying, you promised a win, where's the win? But, since he was elected, steel and aluminum tariffs have doubled. There's more tariffs coming on next week on lumber. So I know these things take time, but how should Canadians view this on the outside when the tariff rates seem to be going in the wrong direction rather than in the right direction 6 months in?
Well, I think if we were the only country in the world that was getting hit by this, then I think we'd be we'd have justification for being concerned. Reality is that many of the goods that are covered by the USMCA, CUSMA, whatever, are actually still flowing and getting in tariff-free, and we've got an advantageous situation. Now, if you're a steel worker, that doesn't help. Mm-hmm. But I think, as I say, the easiest thing is to do a bad deal quickly. I mean, we were under a lot of heat when I was in Washington from people to do something quickly. We were under heat to, establish a quota deal under the, steel and aluminum tariffs. We resisted it and ended up getting a better deal on both. And so I think, as I say, if you're a steel worker or you're in the auto sector and everything else, I can fully appreciate and if you're in the opposition, of course, you're going to try and, say whatever you're going to say to make the prime minister look bad. But I think it's always easy. It's always easy to do a bad deal. You just shouldn't do it. That's all.
David McNaughton is a former Canadian ambassador to the United States. He was in conversation last night on Power and Politics with David Cochran from CBC. So next on the show, let's dig into this meeting. You might also know Trump yesterday announced a new tariff, 25% on medium and heavy-duty trucks. That's supposed to start November 1st. Ryan Tumulty is here to take his shot at analyzing all this. He's with the Toronto Star. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
I don't think I've ever remembered a news headline saying that the expectations for a meeting between a prime minister and, a president were, not a lot. Like, people are lowering expectations this morning. What's at risk for Mark Carney with this trip, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, politically, if you think back to the last election, survey after survey, poll after poll, they all said the same thing, that people trusted Mark Carney to negotiate a better deal with Trump. And that's sort of what he pledged, that he would be the right business voice, accomplished, serious person to get a better deal with the U.S. president that would let us move on. And so I think Canadians have a certain amount of patience and sympathy for Mark Carney because they realize Donald Trump is not an easy person to negotiate with. That said, at a certain point, that patience will wear thin, and I think people will expect Mark Carney to deliver something.
What's success today, then? Do you think what is the goal for the prime minister's trip, and what would he see as success?
Yeah, I think success would be sort of any concession that the government can get on trade. I don't think a full trade deal is anywhere remotely on the table. That's not going to happen today. But maybe, the prime minister can encourage the president to weaken steel tariffs or aluminum tariffs or lumber or, not bring any new tariffs. Maybe agree to a much more comprehensive negotiation, something like that. So I think there's a hope here that we'll see some sort of movement forward, but certainly no guarantees.
Let's move actually back to this country and some developing news with the government. In Ottawa, the government announced they're going to be making changes to Bill C-2. So this is the border bill. What changes? What are the contentious issues with this legislation?
Yeah, so I mean, this legislation has attracted the attention of sort of civil rights groups, civil libertarians, who are basically concerned that it goes too far. The whole bill is designed to strengthen border security, toughen up measures, but there's provisions in there around searching mail, for example, or getting more information from internet service providers. And there's basically a concern that the government has, in trying to strengthen border security, given police too much power, maybe gotten that balance a little bit wrong. Certainly, we've heard that from the civil rights groups and civil libertarian groups, but we've also heard it from the opposition. And, in a minority parliament, this government has to be flexible. So what we're hearing, and the CBC has reported this, that there's going to be a new version of the bill that strips some of those, some of those provisions out.
Why do you think the Liberals felt that they needed to make these changes?
Well, obviously the politics, with the minority parliament, if none of the opposition parties are prepared to support the bill as is, it's not going anywhere. And I think they're eager to pass this bill to show the Trump administration, which has used border security as a justification for trade tariffs, that they are taking that issue seriously. I think the using the border security as a justification for tariffs has always been a pretty thin excuse from the Trump administration. But it is clear that they care about border security, so you can show that you're doing something. A lot of these things were long-standing concerns of police. The one groups that are definitely still supportive of this legislation, are police unions and police associations. And so I think there is a certain pressure to get something done here and move the ball forward. And so they're maybe trying to get what they can, because a lot of the bill is not controversial, get that across, and then perhaps look at these other issues somewhere down the line.
Do we know, Ryan? I know you said this is obviously developing, and we've confirmed some things about, they confirmed there'll be some kind of a change or amendment put forward. Do we know specifically what they're going to change?
No, but I would suspect that you're going to see some changes to some of these areas that broaden police search powers. So the ability for police to search mail, for example, it's, police have that ability, and they would have still required a warrant under this bill, but it would have just been a little bit easier.
Those things you mentioned as examples of what's contentious. All right, Ryan, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Ryan Tumulty is a political reporter with the Toronto Star. We have World Report coming up here in a couple minutes for the latest on national and international news. It is right now exactly 4 minutes to 7 o'clock on CBC.
It's Canada's most prestigious competition for new short fiction. The 2026 CBC Short Story Prize is on. Send in your best original unpublished short fiction. Up for grabs, cash prizes from the Canada Council for the Arts, a 2-week writing residency at the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity, and your work published on CBC Books. Contest closes November 1st. For rules and more, go to cbcbooks.ca.
It is right now time to check our weather. It's clear. It's 3 degrees in Winnipeg. You might have some frost on your windshield. You'll probably be able to spray the liquid and get rid of it that way, but it'll be there. Not everywhere, though. I noticed my plants looked still kind of lively this morning, but it is chilly. It's also -1 at the airport, by the way. Over in Brandon, clear sky -5. Thompson's mostly cloudy -2. For the day in Winnipeg, it will be sunny, and we are expecting winds to be northwest at 20. Our high today in the city is 10 degrees. So pretty similar to yesterday. In Brandon, sunny and our high 13 today. Your winds will be up to 15 km an hour. And then up in Thompson, sun and cloud and mostly sunshine this morning, though. And your high is going to be just 5 degrees. But everyone's still above zero for those daytime highs. So here we are on Tuesday, October 7th. On the morning commute, if you need us, please give Corey a call. The number is 788-3093, 788-3093. And the only thing right now to mention is that you might want to bring some layers, because it's a time of year where if you're biking or walking, especially maybe standing at the bus, you might want some extra layers this morning, maybe some mitts. But otherwise, later, you're probably going to not need them in that sunshine. Let's go to Heather Wells. She joins us now live with our news headlines this morning. Hi, Heather.
Hi, good morning. Well, today is the deadline for the Manitoba legislature to vote whether to impose fines on former Premier Heather Stephenson and 2 of her PC cabinet colleagues. Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner recommending Stephenson pay an $18,000 fine for pushing to approve the CO Silica mining license after the PCs lost the 2023 election. The government House Leader, Nahanni Fontaine, says debate could extend into the evening. Some farmers in southwest Manitoba are hoping for frost this week so they can finish harvesting their crops. The RM of Piney received a lot of rain, 62 millimeters on Saturday and Sunday. One farmer says it's so muddy he needs frost to firm up the ground so he can get his farm equipment out on the field and finish harvest. We'll hear more in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In the next hour of the show, something fun going on, video games, axe throwing, and a whole lot of smashing. We're going to meet the creators of a new entertainment space for adults in our city, so stay tuned. We'll take you there. Also, minimum wage last week went up to $16 an hour, as you likely have heard. So this week on the show, we're going to meet some of the people that work in what might surprise you, some professions that only make minimum or just above. We're going to hear from a support worker for young people in the foster system. She makes just more than the bare minimum. What's the work she does for that amount? So we're going to talk about that in the next hour. Plus, it is 2 years since the attack, October 7th in Israel. It's the 2nd anniversary. We have an Israeli Winnipegger who will join us live after 7 o'clock to give us a look at how the relationships in her life have been affected by what happened 2 years ago today. Stay tuned. Also much more on the ground in Israel coming up at 7 o'clock on World Report. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being with us this Tuesday morning on CBC, and stay here on 89.3 FM.
people across this country who graduated from post-secondary programs in the last few years are still looking for work, and they worry about the implications for their careers long-term. Young people looking to the future, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Prime Minister Mark Carney will soon be at the White House face-to-face with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney arrived in Washington last night ahead of the critical discussions. CBC News has learned the Canadian delegation expects some relief on tariffs. The pressure is on Canada's Prime Minister to make it happen. And there is pressure on Trump, too. As Peter Armstrong tells us, the tariffs are costing Americans money.
There's a long and growing list of American industries, businesses, and sectors clamoring for relief from Donald Trump's trade war. The auto industry has complained loudly and publicly that the tariffs on auto parts are costing companies billions of dollars. Bourbon producers are lobbying for a carve-out that would protect their industry. American soybean farmers are expecting a bailout package as early as this week that could be as high as $50 billion. One clear stat showing just how much pressure Trump is under is that lobbyists have been paid a record high, more than $900 million this year alone. Now, none of that alone is enough to move Trump off his trade policies, but combined, they show how much and how deep Trump's tariffs are biting into the U.S. economy. GDP growth has largely held up so far, but consumer confidence is weak, job growth has sharply dropped off, and experts say the true cost of the tariffs is only starting to show up in the data. As the trade war drags on, those costs will rise. So, cutting some kind of a deal today on, say, steel or car parts won't make the underlying problem go away, but it could buy Trump some relief from those businesses looking to the White House to cut a check to support them as their costs continue to rise. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
The federal government is retooling its border security bill. The border was a big justification for the first round of U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. And the government tabled C2 in response, but it now appears that bill is dead. Opposition parties said they will not support it. Janice McGregor has more from Ottawa. And Janice, why wasn't the government able to pass this bill?
Marcia, concerns surfaced early that its proposed new powers for law enforcement were going to give the government a lot of power to snoop on ordinary Canadians. And even though the opposition was broadly on board with strengthening the border to appease Washington's demands, the way C2 would allow authorities to intercept communications, search and seize digital data, well, that became a bridge too far. Here's opposition leader Pierre Poilievre speaking to our colleague Kate McKenna over the weekend, announcing Conservatives would not allow this bill to move forward.
If you suspect there's something suspicious in a parcel or an envelope, you set it aside, you go to a judge, and you get a warrant. The envelope or parcel is not going to grow legs and run away.
But as recently as yesterday, in question period, ministers were still defending this bill, saying police had asked for lawful access powers to help their investigations. Here's Ruby Sahota, the Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Canada is the only country amongst the G7 and our Five Eyes that does not have a lawful access legislation. Mr. Speaker, this is so important in order to protect our children that are being exploited online.
However, a new bill was being drafted. It went on notice last evening for introduction later this week. Not only Conservatives, but the Bloc and New Democrat MPs were also not prepared to vote with the Liberals on this one. So, in a minority parliament, the government's gone back to the drawing board, trying to figure out how to pull what couldn't find support in order to save and pass the rest.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Memorials are being held across Israel today. They mark the 2-year anniversary of the Oct.7 attack by Hamas. Some 1,200 people were killed in the assault. Most were civilians. Hamas also took more than 250 people hostage. The attack initiated a war in Gaza that the health ministry says has killed more than 67,000 Palestinians. The CBC's Paul Hunter is in Israel with more.
2 years precisely after the Hamas attacks into Israel, and at the site of the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel, just outside its border with Gaza, they gathered today to mourn and remember. Orit Baron's daughter Yuval was at the festival that day, killed while trying to escape the Hamas attackers.
That I miss her so much. She was the unicorn of the house. And her smile, her noise.
Nearly 400 people were killed at this place alone, with more than 36 kidnapped in attacks that caught Israel by surprise and overall left some 1,200 dead, 250 kidnapped, many still in captivity. The attacks sparked Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza that's left many tens of thousands of Palestinians dead, hundreds of thousands displaced and without essential supplies. Efforts to end the war for both sides to accept a proposed U.S. peace deal meanwhile continue. But even on this day, at the site of that festival, the sound of Israeli artillery fired into Gaza echoed through the festival's memorial itself, where placards on permanent display showed photos of the dead, those killed as they ran or caught hiding, killed roadside or in nearby fields. Paul Hunter, CBC News, at the site of the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel.
Marineland wants to know whether the federal government will provide any money to help care for its beluga whales, and its deadline is today. The Ontario Aquatic Amusement Park is closed. The fisheries minister has rejected an application to export the whales to China, and as Lisa Shing reports, she's also rejecting the notion of any money.
I hold Marineland accountable right
Fisheries Minister Joanne Thompson rejecting the park's request for money to care for its remaining 30 belugas.
To immediately respond with a request for federal funding is inappropriate.
The ask comes after the minister rejected its applications to send the whales to a theme park in China. In a letter to Thompson last week, Marineland said it was in a critical financial state, and if Ottawa doesn't come up with the funds, it will be forced to euthanize the belugas. The now defunct amusement park and zoo in Niagara Falls, Ontario, closed to the public last year. A 2019 federal ban on keeping whales, dolphins, and porpoises for breeding or entertainment undermined Marineland's business model, and for years it was subject to controversy with animal rights activists.
There is no easy way out.
Camille Lapchuk, executive director of advocacy group Animal Justice, says the onus should fall on the park to care for the animals, but is also urging the Ontario government to intervene since it's responsible for animal welfare.
It's clear that there's going to need to be a federal and provincial role in any solution.
Provincial and federal officials are working on a plan. Ontario Premier Doug Ford said last week he's hoping the belugas can be moved to a place they can thrive. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
There are signs we're at a global turning point in the way we power our world. New research shows wind and solar farms have generated more electricity than coal plants this year. It's the first time that's happened. And as Salima Shivji reports, the surge in renewable energy is being driven by China and India.
It's quite a revolutionary moment.
A historic first, says Adair Turner, chair of the UK's Energy Transitions Commission. Wind and solar farms all over the world have generated more electricity than coal plants for the first time ever. The report from think tank Ember looked at the first 6 months of this year. It shows the push for renewables was led by China and India. Electricity demand rose, but the growth in solar and wind energy kept up with that pace. It's about new technology, says Turner, driving down the price of solar panels.
It makes sense to buy it even if you didn't care about the climate. It's simply the cheapest way to produce electricity.
It's a game changer in developing countries with lots of sun. But the report also shows a mixed picture, says Miles Allen, professor of geosystem science at Oxford University. The developed world in the United States and across Europe relied more on dirty fossil fuels this year because electricity demand outstripped clean energy's capacity.
It's clear that it's very difficult to get off fossil fuels. We're seeing that both politically and economically.
And both China and India are still building new coal plants that produce high levels of greenhouse gas emissions, even as they invest heavily in cleaner energy. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
And finally, this year's recipients of the Nobel Prize in Physics.
John Clark, Michel Devoret, and John Martinis
for the discovery of macroscopic quantum mechanical tunneling and energy quantization in an electric circuit.
All three scientists work out of universities in the United States, and the Royal Swedish Academy says their research has opened the door to encountering quantum mechanics on a new scale. The Nobel Prize carries a cash award worth 1.6 million Canadian. Priceless prestige. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday. A little chilly out there, maybe even a little frost on your windshield. Current condition in Winnipeg, 3 degrees. I'm Marcy Marcusa. As mentioned, this is Information Radio on CBC. Thanks for joining us here on the morning show. As you've been hearing today, of course, October 7th, 2 years since the attack in Israel, the second anniversary. We're going to talk to an Israeli Winnipegger to give us a look at how relationships in her life here have changed because of what happened 2 years ago. That conversation coming up. Also this hour on the program, we're going to visit a playground for grown-ups that offers nostalgia with a bit of a modern twist. So our community reporter got up and out, and we'll take you where she was. That's at 7:40. And then at 10 to 8, a follow on the story last week about minimum wage. We're going to meet a young Gen Zer whose job it is to help young Indigenous women transition out of foster care, but that job only pays minimum wage or just above it. We'll get their perspective on that. We're looking at a surprising series of stories where, often when we think of minimum wage, you think you may know what types of professions and jobs go along with that, but you may be surprised, I know I was, to hear the kind of work that people are doing for the minimum. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She is here with our headlines this morning and for developing news. Good morning.
Good morning. A delay in getting an ambulance prompted 2 Dauphin nurses to use a handy van to transport a newborn last October. But the nurses were disciplined for breaking protocols. We're going to hear more about that. And the family of a man who died after being arrested by Winnipeg police is now suing the city and the officers involved. 35-year-old James Wood died in hospital following his arrest in January of 2024. More Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Here is Abby now with a look at the forecast.
Most of the province waking up to clear skies, but it's a crisp fall chill in the air and sunshine on its way. That sunshine is going to be sticking around all day, making things bright and cool. Winnipeg, we're still at 3 degrees. It's clear outside. Expect a high of 10 degrees, and that's what we'll see across border. The Westman region, we're seeing -7 there, and other parts of the south, we're seeing 2-3 degrees. Up north, we're seeing -2 and 0 degrees in most of the regions. Winnipeg, once again, we are just at 3 degrees, warming up to 10.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey.
Got a call from Ben on the commuter line, northbound St. Mary's. He says just past Ward, there's construction barriers actually blocking both lanes of northbound St. Mary's. So he actually had to pull a U-turn to go back and then eventually kind of go around through some side streets. So heads up there. Not sure exactly what was going on. Couldn't see any set closures there on the Winnipeg's road closure website. But Ben says northbound St. Mary's just past Ward, construction barriers blocking both lanes. Would love to get updates on that if that changes throughout the morning, or if you see anything else going on out there. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, 2 years have passed since the Hamas attack on Israel. That attack killed 1,200 people. It saw 250 taken hostage, according to Israeli media. Israel says as of Saturday, 48 hostages remain, 20 of whom are alive. Now, the attack led to Israel's invasion of the Gaza Strip. And this morning, as you've been seeing and hearing on national news already, there's quite something set up in that festival park, right? To remember all the people that were lost there. There's these life-size images of the victims of that day, and people are gathering there to remember. That attack resonated, of course, all around the world, and including here where we live. My next guest is Emily Kalo. She's been on the program before to talk about this. She's an Israeli-born citizen. She lives in Winnipeg. She's a student over at the University of Manitoba. Thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
What went through your mind when you were waking up today on this, significant anniversary?
It brings you right back to October 7th, 2023. You woke up thinking everything was normal. It's actually on October 7th, 2023, it was Simchat Torah, which is a Jewish holiday where we recognize we're restarting the Torah. We just had our high holidays, our New Year, and it's supposed to be a joyous celebration. And then just seeing the headlines, seeing pictures of people you knew who hadn't been heard from, who were missing, who you spent days trying to figure out if they were alive or murdered or held hostage. So it's a heavy morning. I think that the importance of it and the weight of it isn't lost.
What are you hearing today from your family back in Israel?
I think that they're still going through trauma. This continues to be a traumatic event that no one thought that an attack like that, an attack of that scale was possible or would happen again. You know, we grew up with grandparents who told us about the Holocaust, who were Holocaust survivors, and we never thought we'd see a scale destruction of Jewish people like that ever again. So I think that it shook a lot of our realities. It shook our sense of safety. And for Israeli citizens, they are dealing with the intergenerational, with the real trauma of that, while also not really being able to heal from it. You know, there's still 48 hostages in Gaza. There's a war raging that we know is causing immense trauma for everyone. So they're struggling, put blankly.
Last week, as you know, there was an attack on a synagogue in Manchester in the UK. How is that attack resonating here and impacting yourself and the wider Jewish community that you would engage with?
Yeah. I think we're all scared. We had to have a lot of serious conversations leading up to the high holidays about how to show up and how to make sure that we could do so being safe, and to know that that wasn't the case in Manchester, that I went to synagogue on the high holidays. So the fact that there's people in Manchester who did the exact same thing and didn't come home for doing nothing other than going to their place of worship is frightening. And I think that all of us are looking for some serious response from not only the government in the UK and making sure that they're holding themselves accountable and creating a higher standard of safety, but also for us here, we want to know that we're safe and that we can continue to worship and not be fearful of continued persecution.
You have friendships with Palestinians, both in Israel and here in Winnipeg as well. How has your relationship changed or shifted, if it has, over the past 2 years? What's it been like?
I mean, it definitely has. I think we've had to have some serious, honest, and candid conversations about where we're coming from, what our positionalities are, how we're feeling. But the reality is that all of that, and something that I wish that more people not directly involved in the conflict understood, is that we have a lot of points of connection and humanity. At the end of the day, we're both coming from communities who are seeking safety, seeking refuge, who want a prosperous future. And Hamas is ultimately the enemy of both of that. Hamas is the one who waged the attack on October 7th. Hamas is the one who continues to put Palestinians in danger. So those conversations have been difficult, but I've been really fortunate that those conversations have been rooted in a shared idea that we're coming from a place of humanity and that we share humanity. And I wish that more Manitobans, Canadians, and more global citizens could have those same conversations.
Have you lost any friends? I'm just curious because I know that as I've watched Manitobans just as bird's eye view having conversations on social media, and it's interesting to have watched the trajectory where some people are walking away from each other.
Unfortunately, I don't know a Jewish person who hasn't lost a friend with October 7th. Not only were we dealing with the trauma and mourning, and all of us knew someone, so dealing with that personal loss, but also we saw, and we continue to see, a significant rise in historic anti-Semitic tropes. I had many people suggest to me that women were not sexually assaulted on October 7th, that it was actually a conspiracy, that Jewish people are responsible and that they're controlling the news. These tropes that we heard in 1938, we're hearing again. So unfortunately, I lost a good amount of friends, and I think a lot of people did. I thought that the difference between my experience in the deadliest day of Jews since the Holocaust would be different from my grandparents, in the sense that communities would support us. And while some have been staunch allies, others have not. And that was a really unfortunate reality and a disappointing realization.
Obviously, we've been hearing this week about the indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas taking place in Egypt. What do you think needs to happen for the war to come to an end?
I think Hamas needs to be dismantled. That simple. The hostages need to come home. Hamas needs to be dismantled, and the Palestinian people in Gaza need to be given a government that can self-authorize, that can self-govern, and that can actually give them a safe and prosperous future, which they deserve. I'm optimistically cautious and hopeful that we won't be celebrating or commemorating this in next year, that we'll have a peace deal and that we'll have our hostages home. I think for so many people, they haven't yet even been able to process what's happened because they still have a sibling, a child, a loved one who's being held hostage.
What would you like to people to understand and know about how Manitoba's Jewish community might be reflecting today?
I want people to know that today is a hard day for your Jewish friends and your Jewish peers. It is the scariest day I think most of us have gone through as Jewish people, and praying that we'll ever go through in our lifetime. But I want people to know that supporting your Jewish peers today, acknowledging their suffering and making sure that they know you're here for them, is not a political statement. It's not political to acknowledge what happened on the 7th and that there was a barbaric attack on civilians who were at a music festival or in their homes. And we're just planning to wake up and celebrate a Saturday with family. So I hope that they know that it's not political, it's humanity, and it's humane to do so.
Do you think that people are afraid that everything will be read as political, that somehow you couldn't support a Jewish friend, as you're saying, just to use your example, and also maybe politically your belief would be that Netanyahu and what's happening with the war in Gaza should end because of the humanitarian, what's been happening with people killed there? Do you think that people are too often not able to sort of live with both?
I don't just think that. I've been told that. I've had friends who are not Jewish tell me quietly that, that they'll quietly support me or that they quietly want to acknowledge things, but that they're fearful of doing that in a louder way, in a public way, or that they're just fearful of doing it at all. I think that when you talk about this conflict, when you talk about the Middle East, it can be a really intimidating and treacherous place to go. But knowing that acknowledging what community members are going through, what your fellow Manitobans are going through, that's not political. That's just what we do to support each other.
Emily Kalo, thank you very much for your time today and for starting the day on CBC with us. Really appreciate it today.
Thanks for having me.
Emily Kalo is an Israeli-born citizen. She lives here in Winnipeg. She's a student over at the University of Manitoba. Today, of course, the second anniversary of the Oct.7 attack in Israel.
Our community.
Those who shape this place come from all walks of life.
Some of us you hear every day.
And others are working hard to make Manitoba a better place.
The movers and shakers.
The change makers. The people making a difference.
And CBC Manitoba is where you'll hear their stories.
CBC Winnipeg News at 6.
Information radio. Up to speed.
Radio News. CBC.ca/Manitoba.
Watch, listen, experience Manitoba.
There's me asking you to watch, listen, and experience. So we thank you for doing that this morning with us. Remember, you can also watch us on YouTube. Show streams live there. And we have a podcast every week. Drops every Friday. New episode of This is Manitoba, which you can check out. It is mainly clear, 3 degrees in the city of Winnipeg. If you need us on the drive, 788-323-3093, rather. Ben called that number, said northbound St. Mary's just past Ward. There was construction blocking both lanes. So there's barricades up there. It may be cleared or moved over by now. He wasn't sure. And so that is Ben calling the traffic line, 788-3093 if you do need us. Well, the title of Bahama's upcoming album might concern some fans because it's called My Second Last Album. But hopefully not. It comes out October 24th. He's got to tell us why he called it that. From it, though, we have this tune. It's called The Bridge.
Let me walk upon the water. Take me to the bridge and let me walk upon the water. Oh, child, don't say sorry. Run wild, though I might worry. Let them do as they do. Let them find their own way. There's so much to be gained now from making your own mistakes. Take me to the bridge and let me walk upon the water. Take me to the bridge and let me walk upon the water. Run free. So much to discover. You don't need me or your mother. Let them go where they go. Let them find their own way. I'm right here beside you to love and gently guide you. Take me to the bridge and let me walk upon the water.
Bahamas and the bridge. Kind of fun, huh? I like that tune. On October 24th, his next album's going to come out. It's called his second last album, but we don't know if it is, so hopefully not. It is 7:25 on Tuesday morning. Let's talk about baseball. Scott Regeris with us now. Good morning.
Hey there, Marcy.
So the biggest stage, a guy named Bieber is going to try to get Canada's team into the American League Championship Series tonight.
Yep, and as a longtime fan of the Blue Jays, I'm sure pop star Justin's going to be cheering on his namesake tonight, Marcy. Shane Bieber, who was brought in at the trade deadline exactly for moments like these, has a chance to vanquish the Yankees in New York.
It's a fun place, a fun environment if you embrace it. Thankfully, I've had that experience prior. I think it's all about just keeping perspective, what an incredible opportunity it is for me personally and then this team as well.
Bieber talking about his previous experience pitching at Yankee Stadium in the playoffs. That came when he was still with Cleveland back in 2022. That night, Bieber got into the sixth inning, gave up just 2 runs. Toronto would love a repeat of that performance this evening. Now, there's also, Marcy, the burden of expectation on the Yankees. Take this conversation between the Fox broadcast crew after New York got humiliated in Toronto in those first 2 games. The first voice you hear is former Yankee Alex Rodriguez. The second, former Red Sox star David Ortiz.
And you can trick yourself to say, you know what, fellas? If Max Fried would have played well, we would have won. Maybe you build on that positivity. Do you agree, Poppy?
They can bring Jesus back. It's over. It's a wrap.
Now, consider the source. Big Papi Ortiz is a Boston legend. He wants the Yankees to lose. But to suggest even the second coming will not get New York out of the deficit they're in, that's a bit of a statement. If they start slowly in their own stadium tonight, it could get ugly. There's a reason they call it a Bronx cheer, after all. But here's a more practical reason I think Toronto can sweep tonight, Marcy. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is on fire at the moment. He plays better in Yankee Stadium than any other venue. And his career batting average against New York's starter tonight, Carlos Rodon, is almost 600. First pitch is at 7:08 Central Time.
Okay, it's going to be a tough one, though. They got that good young pitcher in tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Did you watch Phillies? I know we shouldn't talk only baseball, but did you watch Phillies Dodgers last night, too?
I did.
Woo!
I did.
Right down to the ninth inning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful series, that one, too. The 2 winningest teams in all of baseball over the last decade, I think. So, yeah, went down to 1-run win for the Dodgers last night.
Just crazy. If you haven't been watching ball and you want to get into it, do it.
Yeah.
Tennis, a growing concern, actually, within that sport.
Yeah, burnout among the game's biggest stars, Marcy. World number 19, Daria Kasatkina, says she's at a breaking point and says she's ending her season early. She's the 3rd women's player in the past few weeks to do this, all of them ranked in the top 20. Others, including multiple Grand Slam winner Iga Swiatek, say they're going to finish the season, but only because the Women's Tennis Association is basically forcing them to.
There's no point for us to play over 20 tournaments in a year. I think these kind of obligations and the rules about mandatory tournaments just put pressure on us. And I think people would still watch tennis maybe even more if we played less tournaments, but the quality, for example, would be better or we would be more consistent because of that, you know.
There's a mandatory event going on right now in Wuhan, China, and I have to say, learning Canadians Victoria Mboko and Leila Fernandez were ousted today in the opening round. Make me wonder if that's not a positive thing.
Let's finish with hockey, where the NHL season starts today, and the game's best player is making news even before puck drop.
Some calling it the best bargain in hockey history, Marcy. Connor McDavid signs a contract extension with Edmonton that'll pay him $12 million a season, which is about $8 million below market value. Here's Oilers general manager Stan Bowman.
That was what Connor wanted. It was not like we made a pitch that he should sign for that amount. The players were shocked as well. Like, holy cow, what a leader this guy is. I think everyone probably had the same reaction. But getting to know Connor, he is a one-of-a-kind guy. Like, he's such a tremendous leader and so motivated to try to win. And I think that's a testament to who he is as a person.
So this will save the Oilers a bunch of money, maybe bring in a top-flight goaltender, get them over the hump and win the cup this time round. We'll see. But I'm also thinking, what do other players like Kyle Connor think, who have got to sign their own deals, and they say such a hometown discount being taken? Puts pressure on them.
All right, Scott, thank you.
You bet.
Scott Regehr with Live Morning Sports. A quick traffic note here. Nick just called the commuter line northbound Kenniston just after Corridon. Car stalled in the right lane. It's causing a bit of backup. 788-3093 if you need us. Stay tuned. The news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, bright, chilly start to Tuesday in Winnipeg. It's going to be sunny throughout the day. Right now we are at 3, a high today of 10. It is a case that is raising questions about the challenges of transferring patients in rural areas. 2 registered nurses have been disciplined by their regulator for transferring a baby from Dauphin to Winnipeg using a handy van. It happened on a foggy day last October. An air ambulance wasn't available because of the weather, and there was a delay getting a ground ambulance. A nurse agreed to do the transfer to Winnipeg using a handy van arranged by a manager. Martin Lucier at Manitoba's College of Registered Nurses says the regulator has to balance supporting nurses with keeping them accountable even when they face challenging situations.
The college does review and take into account the, exacerbating or mitigating circumstances for sure. In this case, I think it's just that in the view of the committee, it rose to the threshold of being, a very serious departure from those, professional standards.
Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says they agree more paramedics are needed to help address issues with patient transfers in rural areas. The minister says while this case is concerning, protocols must be followed to keep patients safe. Today is the deadline for the Manitoba legislature to vote whether to impose fines on former Premier Heather Stephenson and 2 of her PC cabinet colleagues. In May, Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner recommended Stephenson pay an $18,000 fine for pushing to approve the CO Silica mining license after the PCs lost the 2023 election. The commissioner also recommended a $12,000 fine against former Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen and a $10,000 fine against former Economic Development Minister Jeff Wharton. Wharton still serves as the PC MLA for Red River North. PC leader Abi Khan says he is ready for the vote on the commissioner's recommendations.
At this point, I'm preparing to make sure that our members have supper and preparing that our members know that should they need, some arrangements for childcare, to do so.
And that is the NDP House Leader, Nahani Fontaine, saying debate could extend to the evening. Here now is Abi Khan.
Bring it forward. Let's debate. We accept the findings. The member from Red River North accept the findings. Let's move forward.
And so there is speculation they will be debating through the day into the evening. The family of a man who died after being arrested by Winnipeg police is suing the city and the officers involved. 35-year-old James Wood died in hospital following his arrest in Crestview in January 2024. Witnesses tell CBC police used a stun gun and a baton in the arrest. Wood's father filed a statement of claim last week with the Court of King's Bench against the city and 6 police officers. It claims 2 of the officers used force with weapons without legal justification. The lawsuit also accuses the officers of racially profiling Wood, who is Indigenous. The suit seeks a total of $350,000 in damages. CBC has reached out to the city for a response. None of the allegations has been tested in court, and no statement of defense has been filed at this time. Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to have his second Oval Office meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump today, with trade and tariffs expected to be top of mind. Carney and Trump have been in constant contact since the two leaders met at the White House in May as Ottawa looks for a tariff off-ramp. People in Israel are marking 2 years since the October 7th attacks by Hamas.
קורבנות טבח השבת השחורה תשפ"ד והשליכו נפשם מנגד.
A memorial service in Kfar Aza, a kibbutz in southern Israel. Mourners held a moment of silence at 6:29 a.m., the minute the attack began. The resulting war has brought misery to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli officials say the war is not meant to punish them, but after 2 years, many Palestinians are asking how much more they will be forced to endure. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Some farmers in southeast Manitoba are hoping for frost this week so they can finish harvesting their crops. The RM of Piney received upwards of 62 millimeters of rain Saturday and Sunday, as well as hail. Landon Wheeler farms soybeans near Sprague. He says he can't harvest right now because the fields are too muddy.
Soybeans, the header has to slide along the ground, and when the ground is really muddy, it's very hard to get the header to slide, and then you end up leaving beans behind. But a frost will hold us above the ground, and it'll keep everything solid.
Wheeler says he's also has some land in Niverville and has no issues with the rain in that area. This year's recipients have been announced for the Nobel Prize in Physics.
John Clark, Michel Devoret, and John Martinis for the discovery of macroscopic quantum mechanical tunneling and energy quantization in an electric circuit.
The Nobel Committee honoring 3 Americans for their work in expanding the study into quantum mechanics. The Nobel announcements continue all week, with the Peace Prize being awarded Friday. The nominating process is a closely guarded secret, but we do know supporters of Donald Trump have put the U.S. president's name forward for consideration for the Nobel Peace Prize. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells with our news this morning, live from our CBC studios here at 541 Portage Ave. All right, let's get into the forecast here. Abby, what do we know?
Clear, chilly skies. The sun already making its appearance across board, and the sunshine will be sticking around all day, making things bright, but it's going to be cool. Winnipeg still at 3 degrees. Clear conditions we have, warming up to 10. Light southerly winds, we'll see them. Plenty of sunshine tonight, clears and stays around 3 degrees. Across board, we're seeing -7 to 3 degrees in most of the southern regions, from the Pembina Valley all the way down to the Interlake region. That's what we see. Brandon is around -6 at this time. Up north, the powerful influence Thompson Churchill, we're looking at frosty morning. Temperatures hover between -2 and 0. Also, sunshine and a few clouds will bring highs of 2 to 6 degrees far north. Winnipeg right now, 3 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, Corey Funk, I heard you put mitts on your hands, but they weren't mitts. They're
Socks. I forgot my mitts at work, and they don't cut the wind like the leather garbage mitts do. So.
Did you need them this morning biking in?
Yes, I did. It was cold. Yeah, there was a bit of a breeze. I wish I had a balaclava. Like, it kind of hurt my face. I wish I still had a mustache too. That'd be nice.
Yes, but you accidentally shaved it off.
Yes, as it happens sometimes.
With an over trim, and then it had to go.
Yeah.
You're not here to talk about facial hair.
No, I'm not. There's a couple things to look out for out there on the roads. Northbound St. Mary's, just past Ward, got a call from Ben. You saw construction barriers actually blocking both lanes northbound St. Mary's just past Ward, so we had to actually pull a U-turn and go back. So heads up there. That's like way south St. Mary's, like just kind of like in the city limits, but before the perimeter. Also, got a call from Nick. Says northbound Kenniston, just after Cordon, there's a stalled car in the right lane. Keep left to get around that. It is causing some backups on northbound Kenniston. Those are the two issues that I've heard of this morning. But if you do see something else going on out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, next on the show, a story from our community reporter, Shanley Vidal. She visited a place that used to be used for formal dining events, and now it is a playground for adults. Smash and Axe Arcade Disco opened last month in Winnipeg. It's a place for, well, you might guess some of this by the name, playing video games, throwing axes, and smashing away some stress. CBC Manitoba's community reporter, as mentioned, Shanley Vidal, stopped by the Norvilla Hotel out on Henderson Highway to find out more.
We know that we needed somewhere for people to throw. That's very important because when that glass hits that concrete, there is nothing more satisfying.
Adam Dudek built this room, along with the rest of Smash and Axe Arcade Disco. He co-owns the new adult entertainment zone with Raj Maniar. The space opened in the basement of Winnipeg's Norvilla Hotel in September.
We really wanted to lean into giving parents a night off, or people coming home after work, just to have some time away from their kids. And so they can be themselves and like just fully get into like that 90s nostalgia feel that we're trying to go for.
Throw some axes, gang!
Yeah!
Right? Yeah, man!
Aside from 2 Smash rooms, a video game lounge, and a bar, there's a row of axe-throwing cages that have a technological twist.
Normal axe throwing is you take an axe, you throw it at a static target, and you count your points. That's super fun for a little bit of time. We are projecting a choice of 16 games onto the targets. So instead of just throwing at a static target, you're throwing at games. So basically, we're gamifying a game.
At least they got enough weapons. For the arcade games, we partnered with Phantom Amusements. I've visited their arcade several times at the Forks, and the feeling that it gives me brings me back to being, 14 to 16, rolling into the arcades at Excalibur or Magic Land. So going back in time to those days brought us to where we are now.
This was a banquet hall that was designed in the 60s and 70s. So there was some carpet going up the wall. That was a beautiful beige and brown color. So we ripped all that out, painted it black, had the ideas basically of an old school arcade where like the carpet on the ground had like the 80s and 90s like kind of swishes on it. So we wanted to kind of replicate that, but modernize it a little bit. We even went old school with the arcades and stuff like that, going coin operated instead of tokens or tap.
And then we had the stage. We did not know what we were going to do with the stage. We didn't want to tear it down. So it was Raj's idea. He said, let's build a living room like we used to play in.
Yeah! It's a me, Wario. I'm going to win.
And now that living room has every Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo game in it.
It feels like a playground for adults. Is that what you were going for?
Basically, yes, except it's more of a playground for me.
You can just take a break from being an adult.
For those wanting a more personalized Smash Room experience, there is the possibility of bringing in your own items to destroy.
There is a lot of stuff that we have to be careful of where people aren't bringing other people's stuff in. So we vet it, we look through it, we make sure. But within about a month, we will have a BYOB package set up for people.
So if you're getting divorced, this would be a perfect place to bring your old wedding china.
Oh, bring your old wedding china, bring any picture frames you don't like, bring your friends with you. They might want to celebrate a divorce party.
Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It's really cathartic, actually, that baseball bat to the old glass. If you're wondering where all those smashable plates, by the way, glasses and computer equipment come from, they are picked up at auctions and through a partnership with a few local restaurants and a thrift store as well. So thanks to CBC Shanley Vidal, our community reporter, and videographer Warren Kay for bringing us that item. You might have watched it on YouTube. Well, I'll tell you what, the last time that I probably was in the villa, Mariah Carey was a big deal. I might have heard a lot of her music. Tells you when the last time I was in the villa. It was always, it was right in my neighborhood when I was growing up out on Henderson there. But Mariah Carey actually has new music out now. She's released a record recently. It's her first in 7 years. This one's called Here for It All. It features artists like Kehlani and the Clark Sisters, as well as Anderson .Paak on this next tune. So here's Mariah Carey and Anderson .Paak. It's called Play This Song.
About your suffering in your silence. Boy, I know you miss me. Listen by yourself, you can listen by your depths. And I can't pretend to hold it all in. It all comes around again. You know we got some history. Listen by yourself, listen by your damn self. Play this song by yourself. There's a thing in my mind way around it. I took Bookie, Day, Shine, and Rhyme. We were getting back together, although I highly doubt it. And I know you miss me, babe. Don't pretend like you don't feel the same. Can't take all the pain and the sorrow. Come on and stay until tomorrow. And I know you miss me, babe. Ain't it hard when things don't go your way? I'm not the same, baby, I promise. But all I can say is that I'm sorry. Play this song by yourself. Though you try so hard to hide it, I can tell by the way you're smiling. Girl, I know you miss me. Listen by yourself, you can listen by your damn self. After driving, eating with your little friend, I used to buy you steaks and scrimps. Don't act like you don't miss me. Listen by yourself, please listen by your damn self. Play this song by yourself. There's a place in my heart I can't hide at all. Well, you can always find it. I told Keisha, Shantae, and Ty we were getting back together, although I highly doubt it. And I know you miss me, babe. Don't pretend like you don't feel the same. Can't take all the pain and the sorrow. Come on and stay until tomorrow. And I know you miss me, babe. Ain't it hard when things don't go your way? I'm not the same, baby, I promise. All I can say is that I'm sorry. Play this song by yourself. And when you're sitting all alone and the DJ plays the song, you begin to realize you was dead wrong. It's time to bring you on home.
That was one of those tunes where it's so familiar. We were all trying to figure out, our team here, me and Abby and Corey, were just trying to figure out what it sounds like, what is it sampled, and yet nothing. And it's new music from Mariah Carey, her first record in 7 years. Tune is called Play This Song, and you might have heard Anderson .Paak on that tune with her. It is 13 minutes to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being here with us on the show. Well, if you were with us last week, you heard quite a conversation about minimum wage in Manitoba. It went up. It is now $16 an hour. Often people think of professions like restaurant servers or frontline retail workers earning minimum wage. But that rate of pay extends into some other industries and jobs that you might find surprising, considering the work. Dakota Barker is a support worker for young Indigenous women who are transitioning out of the foster care system, an important responsibility that's been highlighted in Manitoba as the system continues to evolve and improve. Barker makes just above minimum wage to do the work, and we've invited her back on the airwaves today to talk about what that's like. She's 24 years old. She's been on our Gen Z panel, and I spoke with her yesterday. So tell me a little bit about what your work entails as a support worker. What do you do?
Well, my official title within the job that I do is an auntie, which I think is a really good way of putting it. It's a lot more with working with the kids one-on-one, finding out what their needs are, where they want to go, and just helping them find what they need. One of the biggest responsibilities we have programming every couple days. So we teach them budgeting. We teach them how to be safe online. We teach them how to find a job, how to write a resume. But then they live there, and other aunties also come in, and we teach them how to cook. And we just are a family, for them in a way.
When you say they live there, where is there?
So where I work, it's a duplex that it's owned by the company.
Okay.
And there's 3 beds on each side. It's a home for girls who are 15 to 18 who are coming out of the foster care system. and wanting to transition to independent living.
How many
So-
how many young women would you work with, Dakota?
There's 3 on each side, so it really, the house is divided in 2.
Yeah.
So there's about 3 girls on each side. So per shift, it'd be about 3. I'd be focusing on the 3 girls on that side or the 3 children, because I also work for they have other units around the city.
What's the what's the range of ages of young people that you support? What might be?
Oh, okay. I've supported at the other location where I work. There's 3 younger siblings, and I've seen children as young as 3.
That's
so,
a wide
9.
that's a wide range of work then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what motivates you to do the work and what you see as the importance of doing that work.
I myself, I didn't grow up in foster care, but my parents did foster care and I stayed with them. And I had foster children coming in and out of my house since I was 12 years old. And I get a lot of fulfillment in knowing that I am building genuine connections with these girls, and I want to see them do good. And they're also interested in things that I'm doing outside of supporting them. And it's just a really beautiful way to support and uplift the community, I think. There's that one quote by Gandhi where it's oh, be the change you want to see in the world. And I don't like quoting him because there's other things that came out about him. But I guess that's my contribution to it. I want to be the support that I would want or need at different points in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's the job itself like then? You said on a shift you might work with 3 different young people, mostly young people right now that you have. Is it an 8-hour shift, a 4-hour shift? What's your actual work life like?
Generally the shifts are 8 hours. On weekends though, they're 12-hour shifts. So during the week it'd be 8 to 4, 4 to 12. I love my 4 to 12 shifts because I'm a student and I like staying up late. So that's where I like to go. And then on the weekends it would be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Wow.
That's definitely those are the money shifts, but they can kind of drag on a little bit.
Yeah. What's demanding about the work? You talked about scheduling around being a student, but I wonder what your impact, maybe the impact is on your well-being and maybe on your own mental health, because it doesn't sound like it's a physically demanding job, but I suspect that supporting people is gonna be both rewarding but also maybe challenging mentally.
Yeah, emotionally, yeah. There's been I find a big part of the job that I find to be kind of grueling is the logging, which is also very important. We log every hour what the girls or the resident in question, they all have their own little binders and stuff. And they're all confidential. So we'll write down what they did or what they ate or what they talked about. Things that other people who are coming into work might want to know about this girl, or if she's at risk of something, for example.
That's a serious responsibility. So
so there's that. And at night, if they don't come back by curfew, then we have to call Anchor or the All Nations Children's Response, I believe it's called. But it's a network that works to make sure that Indigenous children, especially ones in care or who have a record of being in care, get home safe.
What about training? Did you have training for your position? I'm just curious whether or not when it comes to being paid and such, were you paid for training hours or how did that work?
Oh yeah. I like to, it's nice that my boss makes sure that we get paid for any and all training that we do, especially even staff meetings or ceremonies. I got paid to go out to Grassy Narrows with one of the girls, and it's a whole weekend of ceremony. So that was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I got paid to do nonviolent crisis intervention training, first aid and CPR training.
Okay, so you're fairly compensated in terms of covering what you're doing. What is it unusual in your time working in this field that those who would work in the social support systems might be at that minimum level?
No, that's not uncommon at all, unfortunately. I do know that there are agencies that pay their workers more, and the workers that tend to get paid a little more, there's this level thing of children who may need higher needs, and level 5 is ones who may need like 24/7 attention, like somebody with them all the time. They do tend to get paid more.
So there's a scale depending on the work.
Yeah, and like who's employing them and such. Yeah,
I understand that you could. The reality is, you could, even at that $16.50 rate, you could make more in retail.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
how does that sit with you, given the work that you do?
I don't like it. I worked retail for a long time too, like before, and sometimes during, like doing respite work, and I don't like whenever I was at my retail job, it just kind of felt like I wasn't doing something that I was proud of.
It wasn't rewarding in the same way as this is for you.
Yeah, like it didn't feel like I was doing something important. I do think that people should be compensated more for their work, especially like unseen or like invisible work, such as like emotional labor, which is sometimes not really considered labor, but especially for some of these kids, you have to exercise a lot of patience. And because it takes up so much of our time, and the biggest difference I found with working with what I do now and working in retail was when I was working in retail, I was just a body. Like I was easily replaceable. They didn't really care. They're like, okay, we'll just hire somebody else who will sell our product. Okay. Whereas when I was like, I'm out sick right now, they're like, hey, like, I hope you get better. Like, these girls miss you. People want to see what you're working on in this, and they want to talk about you with this. And like, I truly feel valued in the work that I do, and I know I could see the difference that I'm making.
Thanks so much for telling us about the work that you do in this detail. Appreciate having you with us again.
Of course. Thank you, Marcy.
According to recently released decisions by their regulator. We're going to hear more about what happened there. And Manitoba's NDP government is following through on a 2023 campaign promise to hire a seniors advocate. Leanne Caron, the former director of the Women's Health Clinic in Winnipeg, has been tapped for that job. She starts next month, pending approval from the legislature. Our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Weather-wise, mainly clear right now. 3 degrees in the downtown area, -2 out at the airport. For the day, a sunny day ahead and a high of 10 degrees is what we're expecting in Winnipeg. We also have a traffic tip to pass along here. Northbound Kenaston, just after Corden, a car stalled in the right lane. That could cause a backup for you there. 788-3093 if you need to reach us with anything bothering you on your commute or getting in the way. Whether you're walking or biking or driving, and wherever you are in Manitoba. Same number, same line, 788-3093. Still ahead after 8.
12 people have lost their lives on Manitoba roadways just because they've gone for a walk.
As the number of pedestrian-involved accidents continues to rise in our province, MPI's on a mission to make our roads safer for all Manitobans. We're going to hear about what works, what doesn't, and also about some of those latest stats. That's coming up after 8 o'clock right here on Information Radio. Thanks for being with us on CBC this morning, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. World Report is coming up next.
Seth MacFarlane uses his voice a lot. Like, he voices 4 characters on his hit show Family Guy.
How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
But Seth is also a singer, and he'll tell you how he got possession of unreleased music meant for Frank Sinatra and how he used his voice to channel Frank on his brand new album.
Girls I knew Q with Tom Power this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Many of the young people across this country who graduated from post-secondary programs in the last few years are still looking for work, and they worry about the implications for their careers long term. Young people looking to the future, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Canada-U.S. trade relations are front and center today in Washington. Prime Minister Mark Carney will sit down with U.S. President Donald Trump to talk tariffs. And sources tell CBC News Canada is hoping to secure some relief on steel tariffs specifically. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. And Willie, what are we expecting during today's meeting?
Well, expectations are low. The CBC has learned that Prime Minister Mark Carney and his team are not anticipating to walk out of the White House with a blockbuster trade deal, but rather movement on steel tariffs, currently set at 50%, which could then serve as a framework for future negotiations. David McNaughton is the former Canadian ambassador to the U.S., and his advice, slow and steady.
We shouldn't panic. I think at some point, the tariffs are going to start impacting on, consumer prices in the United States. The closer Trump gets to the midterms, the more I think he'll be anxious to do real deals as opposed to the kind of smoke and mirror deals he's done up until now. And hopefully by that point, we will have, established some parameters.
What are the potential risks for Carney heading into today's meeting?
Numerous. The relationship between these two leaders is a delicate one, not only because of the ongoing trade war, but Donald Trump's recent speech to military generals in which he once again called for Canada to become the 51st state. And today's meeting is about a lot more than trade. Carney and Trump are expected to discuss a host of issues around security, as well as the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Prime Minister Carney has endorsed President Trump's 20-point peace plan in Gaza, but the two do not see eye to eye when it comes to a future Palestinian state, with President Trump rebuking Canada and other Western countries' decision to recognize Palestine. So he'll have to navigate that and other issues, all while trying to set the U.S.-Canada relationship on a more cordial and productive path.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Some small business owners in Newfoundland and Labrador will be watching today's meeting at the White House very closely. They're halting some shipments to the U.S. They say it's because commercial packages under $800 no longer qualify for duty-free exemptions. The CBC's Heather Gillis reports.
By shipping to the U.S. right now, we lose money with every book that goes out the door.
St. John's-based publisher Jerry Cranford says he's stopping shipments to the United States. He recently sent 3 cases with 96 cookbooks and says he got a big bill at the border.
We were surprised to learn that we had been levied with a $1,400 tariff for these 3 cases.
It's all because the United States ended the de minimis exemption, which allowed commercial shipments under $800 to enter the country duty-free. The other thing eating into Cranford's bottom line, the Canada Post strike. He says other couriers are more expensive. And Cranford's not the only one halting those shipments south. The Heritage Shop, a tourist gift shop with 9 locations in Newfoundland and Labrador, they're stopping too. Executive Director Jane Severs says the problem is tariffs can vary and they need to be paid up front.
Just the risk and the added cost and the manpower, the paperwork, it's just not possible for an organization of our size.
Same for some of Severs' suppliers who depend on U.S. sales.
If those people aren't viable and go out of business, then it's less producers, local people we have to sell in our stores.
Meanwhile, back at Flanker Press, Cranford says he's going to be keeping a keen eye on Prime Minister Mark Carney's meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump to see if there are any changes that would allow him to send small shipments again. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
People in Israel are marking 2 years since the October 7th attack by Hamas. A memorial service in Kfar Aza, a kibbutz in southern Israel. Mourners held a moment of silence at 6:29, the minute the attack began. Some 1,200 Israelis and foreign nationals were killed. Hamas took nearly 250 others hostage. And the resulting war has brought misery to hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. Crystal Mansing reports now from the Israeli-Gaza border town of Sderot.
In Gaza, people talk about the different sounds. The street noise, people jostling for food in crowds, the buzz of drones overhead. But it is the cry of her children that cuts Salma Tawil.
The little kids, they are not able to bear the situation.
Her youngest of four, Julia, doesn't sleep much anymore, too afraid of airstrikes.
She was waking me up all the night. Mama, stay with me. I couldn't sleep.
Tawil spoke to CBC over Zoom not long after she was forced to leave Gaza City with her family. She's now in Deir al-Balah, but isn't sure it's much safer. The World Health Organization says 42,000 people in Gaza are now living with life-changing injuries. Save the Children last month said at least one Palestinian child has been killed every hour on average by Israeli forces in Gaza during the course of the war. Israel says it tries to protect civilians by issuing evacuation notices.
When I see that someone went to the other world, murdered or killed, I see they went to God and they are better than us.
It's easier to be dead than to be alive in Gaza.
Yes, that's true.
Tawil works for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Humanitarian groups like NRC have repeatedly called for an end to the fighting, citing the right to protection, food, and clean water, none of which are readily available in Gaza. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Sderot, Israel.
Today is the deadline for Ottawa to respond to Marineland's request for emergency funding. The Ontario Aquatic Amusement Park says if it does not receive government help, it will have to euthanize its remaining 30 belugas. The park had made a deal to send the whales to an aquarium in China, but the federal government blocked the export request. It said it was not in the best interest of the mammals. The Fisheries and Oceans Minister has also called Marineland's funding request inappropriate. Two leaders of the truck convoy that took over downtown Ottawa are due to be sentenced today. Chris Barber and Tamara Leach were both found guilty of mischief back in April. They were at the forefront of the 2022 protest over COVID-19 restrictions. And as Nicole Williams tells us, the Crown is asking for a stiff sentence.
It's a scene Crown attorneys say had a profoundly negative impact on the city. Trucks camped out in the streets of downtown Ottawa in the winter of 2022, honking and truck fumes through all hours of the day and night, even after a court order to stop.
Guys, lock that door, crawl into that bunk. But before you do that, grab that horn switch and don't let go.
That's Chris Barber, one of the leaders of the Freedom Convoy movement. It saw truckers from across the country occupy the nation's capital for 3 weeks in protest of COVID-19 vaccine mandates at the time. Barber was convicted this past April of mischief and counseling others to disobey that court order.
If you can come to Ottawa and stand with us, that would be fantastic.
Tamara Leach found guilty of mischief alone. The Crown in this case has asked she be sentenced to 7 years in prison and Barber 8. It's a far longer sentence than is typical for a conviction of mischief. But the Crown argues the protest cost the city millions of dollars in business losses and police response and overwhelmed the residents of Ottawa.
It's way beyond any reasonable sentence.
Leach's lawyer, Lawrence Greenspan, he argues she came to Ottawa with the best of intentions. The defense for both her and Barber are asking for their clients to walk with absolute discharges. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
3 scientists who study quantum mechanics are the winners of this year's Nobel Prize in Physics. John Clark, Michel Devoré, and John Martinez all work out of universities in the United States. And hopefully they will all be near the phone, unlike Fred Ramsdell. He is one of the 3 people who won the Nobel Prize for Medicine yesterday, but he still may not know. The Nobel Committee has not been able to reach him. Neither have his friends and colleagues. One of them told AFP News Ramsdell is probably hiking in the backcountry in Idaho, away from cell service, and living his best life. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime. CBCNews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
If he is somewhere in the backcountry, that'll be quite the news to return to. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcia, and here with Abby and Corey and Darren and Heather. This is your morning show team on Information Radio on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and YouTube. This half hour in the program, we're going to look at statistics, but behind each and every one of those statistics, there's a person. So far this year, almost 300 people have been struck by cars in our province, with some of the most recent collisions happening just weeks ago. MPI's on a mission to make our roads safer. We're going to have that conversation this half hour. We'll also look at the stats. In addition, airlines used to give us more things for free, like leg room. More Canadians sick of being cramped are now willing to pay for that privilege. We'll look at that story as well. Stay with us. Heather Wells is here now to update other news and headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, today is the deadline for the Manitoba legislature to vote whether to impose fines on former Premier Heather Stefanson and 2 of her former PC cabinet colleagues. In May, Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner recommended Stefanson pay an $18,000 fine for pushing to approve the CO Silica mining license after the PCs lost the 2023 election. The government House leader, Nahani Fontaine, says this debate could extend into the evening. The family of a man who died after being arrested by Winnipeg police is suing the city and the officers involved. 35-year-old James Wood died in hospital following his arrest in January 2024. Witnesses tell CBC police used a stun gun and baton in the arrest. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, how's your weather?
Yeah, it's chilly outside, but the sun, it's making its appearance already. We have cold conditions across the board this morning. Plenty of sunshine will definitely keep things fresh and bright. 2 degrees in Winnipeg. It's clear outside. The sun is going to be sticking around all day with calm winds and highs pushing near 10 degrees. Tonight stays clear. Lows will be around 3. And then tomorrow warms up quickly, Marcy. We're going to see temperatures get to 17. And by Thursday into the weekend, we get into the range of the 20s again. But right now, we deal with 2 degrees in Winnipeg.
All right. We're far off those 20s right now, for sure, like you said. Corey Funk, what's up?
Northbound Kenniston, just past Corden in the right lane, there's a stalled car, and that's causing some backups, as you can imagine. So keep left to get around that and zipper merge if you can. Other than that, though, it's been a pretty quiet commute overall. But if you do see something going on, if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, so far this year, there have been 271 pedestrian collisions reported to Manitoba Public Insurance, or MPI. Of that, 12 people died. 12 were fatal. Just weeks ago, we had the story of that Nigerian international student who died in hospital after she was hit by a car. She was waiting for a bus near Abinogi-Mikinau and St. Mary's Road. Since October is Pedestrian Safety Month, not that we need a reason, but we're going to lean into this a little bit. MPI is using this month to remind us all of how we can make our roads safer for all communities. Tara Seal is here via Zoom, and she joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You know, it's interesting because I feel like we've been having this conversation in our community for a long time. I mean, pre-pandemic, I remember us talking about crosswalks and what do we do? And now we have the ones that the lights are positioned lower. There's been a number of things that are tried. What do you think when you still hear numbers like the ones I just cited about all of the collisions we've had with pedestrians?
Yeah, I think the number one thing I think of is that these are all preventable, right? So we want to make sure that as drivers and as pedestrians, that we're all respecting how vulnerable pedestrians are on the roadway, and we're taking precautions to make sure that these collisions and the very likely fatalities that occur don't happen anymore. So we all have a role to play here, and that's what MPI is out here talking about today.
So precautions like what? What are some of the most common mistakes people still make that put pedestrians at risk?
Right. One of them is that drivers don't wait for pedestrians to completely cross the roadway before they continue on their way. So drivers, you want to make sure that the pedestrian is safely on the sidewalk before you proceed. For pedestrians, one of the most common things that we're seeing lately is that earbuds are in, they're looking at their phone, they hit that crosswalk button and step out without looking. So you want to make sure that you're engaged with the traffic. If a driver's trying to get your attention, that you're able to hear them, see them. You want to make sure that traffic has stopped before you step out into the roadway. And we also go right back to the basics, right? You want to look both ways before you cross the road.
Last year, there were just over 400 pedestrian collisions in the entire calendar year. How concerning is it? We're just at the first week of October and we're under 300 collisions already.
Yeah, no, the numbers are shockingly high, to be honest. And we're seeing that most of these are happening in the fall and winter months. So it's really great that we're talking about this right now. The most pedestrian collisions also happen between 3 and 5 p.m. So that's when people are typically headed home from school or work. So you want to make sure, again, that at those times specifically, especially because now with the sun setting a bit earlier too, you're getting into dusk and low light conditions. You want to make sure that you're really alert and you're really heightened to the fact that the roadway is a shared space.
What do we know about where the accidents are happening?
Well, we see a lot of them happening at crosswalks, right? Because a lot of pedestrians do cross there, but like I said, not everyone is always paying attention. I think that crosswalk school zones, unfortunately, there's a lot of kids that are out and about in school zones, and children can be really unpredictable when it comes to using the roadway. So again, just heightened awareness, slow down. We just want everyone to be aware of how vulnerable pedestrians are out there.
And maybe not surprising that when I'm looking at the data, I think the number is 227 of 271 of these were in cities where people are walking, right?
Yeah, so yeah, we definitely see more collisions in urban areas. Although, we do see it in rural ones too, right? Where people might be walking on the side of a highway, things like that. So they are happening everywhere, but you're absolutely right, Marcy. We are seeing more happening in urban areas where people tend to be walking about a little bit more.
You also have data on ages. So it shows so far this year, most of the people who were hit were between the ages of 20 and 29. Is there a thinking around why that might be?
Well, I think that age group, again, we have no hard data to support this, but just looking at the demographics, that age group, may be less likely to have a vehicle, maybe more likely to be using public transit, walking around, attending university, so walking around the campus, things like that. So there's that factor, but yeah, I mean, it is largely the 20 to 29 age group that are being involved in pedestrian collisions. And so, that's just something for sure to add to the awareness.
Yeah, and you can apply some logic to that, as you said, that there's no hard data. Tara, thank you very much for being with us today. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for talking about this, and we just hope everyone stays safe out there.
That's Tara Seal with us live on CBC via Zoom, spokesperson for Manitoba Public Insurance.
Welcome to the Little Fair. In the late 90s, a groundbreaking all-female music festival emerged, led by Canadian artist Sarah McLachlan.
Promoter said, you can't put two women on the same bill. People won't come. And it put a huge fire under my butt to prove them wrong.
Representation for women in rock music wasn't there.
And worse, you're being pitted against each other.
Lilith became a freight train.
Catch the documentary that chronicles a pivotal moment in music culture. Watch Lilith Fair, Building a Mystery, for free on CBC Gem.
I found my photos from when I went to Lilith Fair in the 90s. I had some really rockin' bleached out blonde hair, all shaved up the back, and some tiny little glasses with like a coating of green on them. Yeah. It was quite a look, I tell you. But I still remember the music in the moment. And I still remember being there with all my girlfriends in Edmonton and that feeling of supporting something important. So I've yet to watch the doc. We're trying to get together to watch it all together, actually, those of us who are still hanging around here. It is 8:20 right now on CBC, and we have music from a group that's actually in town tonight, BC Rockers Yukon Blonde. They're playing the Park Theatre. Here's one of their latest songs to pick us up on a Tuesday morning. This is I've Got Yours on 89.3.
We were just friends taking our turns to make something of it. World in our hands, drive till we can't, then miss your mother's birthday again. Oh, we were young and so naive, and the money always disappeared. Oh, well, as long as you've got my back, I've got yours. Moving through the day like it's your last. We'll worry about it later, 'cause who knows how long this could all last. I still wanna make it. Oh, we were young and so naive, and the money always disappeared. Oh, well, as long as you've got my back, I've got yours. As long as you've got my back, I've got We were just friends, it's all chips, and let's fake it till we make it. Oh, we were young and so naive, and the money always disappeared. Oh, well, as long as you've got my back, I've got yours. Yeah, as long as you've got my back, I've got yours.
Maybe you're checking out Yukon Blonde tonight at the Park Theatre in Winnipeg. They are here from BC. That's I've Got Yours. It is 8:22 a.m. It is calm, 2 degrees in Winnipeg, a crisp start to your Tuesday morning. And let's talk about flying, shall we? Getting upgraded on a flight is always exciting. A free meal, maybe extra leg room. Sometimes your seat turns into a bed. But as CBC producer Danielle Nerman found out, more Canadians are saying, hey, I do want that. And they're willing to pay for it.
Guests seated in Zone 3 are now welcome to board.
When Erin Duschnicki was in her 20s, she traveled all over Europe. And as a student on a budget, she didn't care if she had to sit at the very back of the plane, so long as the flight was cheap. For years, Erin sucked it up and flew economy. But when she and her wife, who live in Ottawa, were invited to a wedding in Australia,
I really wanted to go, but I'd always said like the only way I could possibly go is I'd have to spring for like business class, because I cannot fathom like sitting upright in economy for like 14 hours.
so they splurged and got the primo seats.
It was kind of like, oh. You got on the plane and they give you your little pajamas and you just get in your cozy little pod and you lie down and go to sleep and you wake up in Australia.
That experience totally changed the way Erin looks at travel.
I learned the value in spending more to be comfortable.
A lot of North Americans are feeling that way. According to a new report, business class travel is growing at a faster rate than economy. Air Canada and WestJet both say, compared to last year, revenue from their premium cabins is up.
I think there's a little bit of FOMO and social media at play here.
Barry Choi is a personal finance and travel expert in Toronto.
You definitely see people flying business class or premium, and you want part of that too, and I certainly don't blame you.
And then I went to go check out the lounge. Guys, this was on the plane.
Immediately, we were greeted by a chef, and he said we could order anything on this menu. So I ordered a round of appetizers.
Airlines make more money on business class seats. That's why they entice people to upgrade, and they've gamified the experience. You can bid on a better seat a few days before your flight, or join a real-time auction hours before takeoff for a shot at sitting up front.
And they win that bid and they realize that, hey, I got a lot of good value out of making this bid. It might be worthwhile to bid again.
And that is how they hook ya.
After having had a taste of the ambrosia of a first-class ticket, it's hard to go back.
Barry Prentice is with the University of Manitoba's Transport Institute. He says for airlines, an empty seat is money down the drain, so they're always looking for ways to maximize revenue.
If you can convince somebody who perhaps booked a cheap fare to upsell to that higher quality seat, well, now you've got another seat that's available for somebody else that may not go first class, but they would take that seat in the economy side.
And that seat in economy, it ain't what it used to be. To keep prices low, airlines have been squeezing more seats on their planes and charging for everything from carry-on to a cup of coffee. Soon, some ultra-cheap seats on WestJet won't even recline. After tasting the champagne of air travel, Erin Dushnicki isn't sure she'll ever go back to the back of the plane.
I don't know if it's just me being old and cranky, but I find everything traveling these days is so busy and so crowded and frustrating.
Instead, she plans to fly less, but do it in style.
We've just taken a less frequent, better quality over quantity kind of approach.
For CBC Radio, I'm Danielle Nerman.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Well, I want to say some thank yous here ahead of our 8:30 news. Associate producers who had items in our program today were Chidi Akuma, as well as Sierra Sanders, and Shanley Vidal, our community reporter in unit, as well as Jim Agapito, reporter in unit. Thanks to our news department, Heather Wells, Megan Ketcherson, and Joni Nicolo, and our live team, Abby Adeyemi, Corey Funk, and Darren Marash. Our producer in our show, of all of our shows in our current affairs unit at CBC here in Manitoba, is Nellie Gonzalez, and the senior producer of audio here is Leif Larson. So thanks to everybody for today. today's program. There is another program coming up over the noon hour. It's called Radio Noon. Marjorie Dalhouse hosts it. She's popped in to talk about the call-in. Hi there.
Hi there, Marcy.
You look cozy today. I love your sweater.
Thank you. It's chilly out there.
Yeah,
I love sweaters anyways. I love fall. That's what I love about the coziness of it all.
Today you're talking not about weather, though. You're talking about the month. It's a special month.
Yeah, so it's the 40th week of the year, and that marks National Breastfeeding Week here in Canada. Why 40 weeks? Because that's usually when a baby starts breastfeeding, right? 40 weeks gestation is usually when a baby is typically born. And we're going to be talking to an expert from the University of Manitoba who's going to tell us about, we all know about the health benefits of breastfeeding, but there's also environmental and economic benefits as well, too. So we're inviting you, ask your questions. Any questions you have about breastfeeding. Maybe there's a story you'd like to share about how a nurse has helped you or resources that you've turned to help you if you did have difficulty. So again, call after 12:30, share your stories, ask your questions on Radio Noon.
All right. Thanks very much, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
So it's between 12:30 and 1, the call-in as always. And I always like to remind you, if you want to leave a message now, if you can't make it over lunch hour, you can call 204-788-3797. That is Noon's call-in line, 204-788-3797. We are going to Flin Flon for the next Communities in Focus. I found myself with just a moment to tell you a little bit about it. So this is going to be the first week of November, but I know that the latest coverage of Flin Flon, of course, that we would have done here in the morning show was around the urgent and emerging situation around the wildfires. So it's quite a year to be exploring and re-exploring. We've been to Flin Flon in the past with CBC, but not for many years. So Canada's North. So it'll be really exciting to be up there. If you have a story to pitch or something to share, you can let us know. You can email us anytime to radio893@cbc.ca. And you can also call us at 204-788-3205 in case you want to leave a pitch for Flin Flon. Your CBC News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is 2 degrees. It's feeling fresh out there. The wind chill this morning. We have one. It's -8, but our temperature is going to climb to 10 this afternoon. Still slightly cooler than seasonal, but lots of sunshine out there today. A delay in getting an ambulance prompted 2 Dauphin nurses to use a handy van to transport a newborn last October, but the nurses were disciplined for breaking protocols, according to recently released decisions by their regulator. An investigation found no air ambulance was available because of poor weather, and the baby's parents wanted to take the child to Winnipeg themselves. Martin Lucier at Manitoba's College of Registered Nurses says they are aware of staffing challenges, but he says the college has to uphold professional standards.
It's a difficult line as a regulator to try and walk between supporting nurses in meeting those standards, which we do through a variety of programs, but at the same time holding nurses to account even if there are and when there continue to be difficult circumstances that present themselves.
Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says they agree more paramedics are needed to help address issues with patient transfers in rural areas. The minister says while this case is concerning, established protocols must be followed to keep patients safe. Today is the deadline for the Manitoba legislature to vote whether to impose fines on former Premier Heather Stephenson and 2 of her PC cabinet colleagues. In May, Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner recommended Stephenson pay an $18,000 fine for pushing to approve the CO Silica mining license after the PCs lost the 2023 election. The commissioner also recommended a $12,000 fine against former Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen and a $10,000 fine against former Economic Development Minister Jeff Wharton. Now, Wharton still serves as the PC MLA for Red River North. PC leader Abi Khan says he is ready for the vote on the commissioner's recommendations.
Bring it forward. Let's debate. We accept the findings. The member from Red River North accept the findings. Let's move forward.
NDP government House Leader Nahani Fontaine says the debate on this vote could extend into the evening. The family of a man who died after being arrested by Winnipeg police is suing the city and the officers involved. 35-year-old James Wood died in hospital following his arrest in Crestview in January 2024. Witnesses tell CBC police used a stun gun and a baton in the arrest. Wood's father filed a statement of claim last week with the Court of King's Bench against the city and 6 police officers. It claims 2 of the officers used force with weapons without legal justification. The lawsuit also accuses the officers of racially profiling Wood, who is Indigenous. The suit seeks a total of $350,000 in damages. Now, CBC has reached out to the city for a response. None of the allegations has been tested in court, and no statement of defense has been filed at this time. Prime Minister Mark Carney will be trying to balance Canadians' expectations with the realities of trying to negotiate any tariff relief during his trip to Washington. Carney is set to have his second meeting in the Oval Office with U.S. President Donald Trump starting later this hour. Trump has indicated he is committed to his tariffs. Memorials are being held across Israel today, marking the 2-year anniversary of the Oct.7 attack by Hamas. Some 1,200 people were killed in the assault. Most were civilians. Hamas also took more than 250 people hostage. The attack initiated a war in Gaza, the health ministry says, has killed more than 67,000 Palestinians. Manitoba's NDP government is following through on a 2023 campaign promise to hire a seniors advocate. Leanne Caron, the former director of the Women's Health Clinic in Winnipeg, has been tapped for that job. She will start November 12th, pending approval from the legislature. Well, some farmers in southeast Manitoba are hoping for frost this week so they can finish harvesting their crops. The Arm of Piney received upwards of 62 millimeters of rain Saturday and Sunday, as well as hail. Landon Wheeler farms soybeans near Sprague. He says he can't harvest right now because the fields are just too muddy.
The frost would help because with soybeans, the header has to slide along the ground. And when the ground is really muddy, it's very hard to get the header to slide, and then you end up leaving beans behind. But a frost will hold us above the ground, and it'll keep everything solid.
Wheeler also says he has land in the Niverville area, but has had no issues with rain in that area. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
We're going to have a last look at what's going on the morning commute. There were a couple things early morning. Otherwise, it's been fairly quiet. Corey, what about now?
Yeah, it's a little bit quieter now, too. That northbound Keniston, there was a stalled car that just passed Corden, and now that has been cleared. So things should be running smoothly again northbound Keniston. Other than that, things seem to be running fairly smoothly.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Abby?
Yeah, it's cool outside. Sunshine on its way. It's still going to stay cool anyway. We'll see temperatures just get to about 13 degrees for the south. And up north, we'll see temperatures near 6 degrees for the Pop, Flin-Flon, Thompson, and Churchill. But Winnipeg, we're at 2 degrees. We're warming up to 10.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, that's all she wrote for this morning, folks. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Information Radio on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. The Current's coming up next right here, and we hope you join us again tomorrow. My name is Marcy Marcusa. Take care. Be well. Have a great rest of your day.